Hey guys, just to inform you, it is going to be another 20 minutes before we start, so feel free to go get yourselves drinks or whatever. I can see there's a good load of you already piled on the stream. We're just got to wait. I mean, the teams aren't even set up or even in there yet. It's not due to start for another 20 minutes. Purely started the stream early because apparently it helps with load balancing, so hopefully it will prevent any lags or anything we may experience tonight, because God help us if we get lags during the final. So feel free to, go get coffee or do whatever. Plenty of time. 20 minutes before we're due to go. I can see a few people actually online. I can see the M5 guys are actually online on the tournament realm. So yeah, it'll be another 20 minutes before we actually due to go officially live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and this is D-Man, and joining me is Jat, hopefully, if everything worked, and wow,
Yep,
my mic
looking good.
my mic seems to be spiking out. Maybe that's just me being loud. So, it is...
Too excited.
I am excited. Are you excited? I mean, you just woke up, surely.
Well, I woke up a little earlier, so I wasn't groggy for the amazing finals we probably have coming. I'm good to go.
It is all good. And if you've been in a cave or hidden away, then I'm guessing you'll probably not listen to this stream anyway. So it is going to be Moscow 5 versus Counter Logic Gaming. That is the EU Counter Logic Gaming CLG. And despite what's happened with Absolute Legends over the night or whatever, contrary to popular thing, the team has not fell apart overnight. There's been all sorts of rumours circulating. That's purely something completely separate. So it will be CLG EU versus Moscow 5 in the finals, and what an awesome tournament we've had. Well, let's run through this tournament because we've had some pretty awesome group stages, and we've had some epic semi-finals followed by a great third place playoff, Jet.
Yeah, we really have, and pretty much every level of this tournament has been competitive on some level, especially the semi-finals, I'd like to say. These were probably the closest semi-final matches that we've really seen in a LoL tournament in quite some time.
Yeah, so let's go through basically what we had on Friday. If you missed it, it was the group stages. So we started off on Group A. It was SKX, GBT, Moscow 5, and Mistral Gaming in there. And really, there were some very close games already. But frankly, Moscow 5 just looked unstoppable throughout the group stage.
They really did, and the weird thing about this is I remember when we were casting this, we actually got to see all three of the SK Gaming games, including their first victory against GBT, and then we just kind of saw them get slowly taken apart by Moscow 5 and Mistral in the second and third group stage games for them. So it was really kind of a good place to showcase the skill of Moscow 5 and Mistral in this tournament, because we started off with SK looking so strong, beating GBT, and then we just got to see even stronger teams come over top of them and beat them out in the group stage.
Okay, so I'm just going to play around with the sound. I've no idea what's what, so I guess people will soon tell me if levels aren't set. But let's move on to Group B as I drag it in because I wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, Group B was Fnatic, Cypher, CLG, and AAA against All Authority. And wow, the biggest flop for this one had to be Fnatic.
It really was Fnatic, and this was the unfortunate group of the unprepared teams where we had a Fnatic team and a Cypher team who both didn't have the tournament client. So, if you remember, we only got to cast, I believe it was one of these games, was it? And it was...
I think it was two. We did one on... I think we did one on West. We managed to get one working.
Yeah.
And then it went all wrong for us. for the big one, which was CLG Fnatic. But by all accounts, that was like a 20-minute walkover, so I don't think we missed much. But yeah, I mean, Cypher really were the surprise package for us. I mean, we kept writing them off, and I don't know why, because they're such a good team.
We really did. We were looking at the groups beforehand, and we were saying, okay, so this group is going to probably be, maybe CLG, but mainly, AAA and Fnatic, and then Cypher's probably just going to, no offense to Cypher, but they're probably going to lose this group. Meanwhile, Cypher's like, you know what, we're actually pretty good on online events. Crushed Fnatic, even though we didn't get to see the game, in something like 20 minutes, and then I think they beat AAA fairly handily as well. So obviously their only loss in the entire group coming to CLG EU, who 3-0'd the group, and now we're seeing in the finals. But just, it was really, I don't necessarily know what they were doing in this tournament aside from in Kiev. I think what we ended up deciding was that they didn't actually have that much time to prepare for Kiev, and that this Cypher had more practice time together, and they were coming off a tournament where they had been playing together a lot, and they probably practiced more, in the week leading up to Kiev as well as the week leading up to this. So they're just kind of, in this tournament we saw the real Cypher, who you shouldn't write off, apparently, because they did really well in their quite strong group.
Yeah, right off to your detriment. And of course CLG went through pretty much whitewashed through this group. They were very, very strong. So that brought us to the semi-finals. It was CLG versus Mistral Gaming and Cypher versus Moscow 5. And all honestly, the games really could have gone either way, despite the fact that the first game, Moscow 5 versus Cypher, went to a best of the best of three, went the full distance, and really, honestly, it teetered on the edge in every single game.
It really did, and all the games actually, we had mentioned this before, were going really, really long in the semifinals. I think most of them were 39 minutes, 50 seconds. A couple of them were over 40 minutes. I think the shortest one was 35 or something like that. And it was really refreshing to see because people were kind of a little bit down on the game after Kiev. A lot of the TSM guys had came out and said, "Oh, every game is going to be really fast now. It's a snowball meta. As soon as you make the first little mistake, the game is over." And it was good to see that that wasn't necessarily true for all games, because being able to see a back and forth 40-minute game is pretty much the most exciting thing you can have in League of Legends. Well, sometimes the 25-minute comp stomps are somewhat entertaining because you get to see sort of a team's dominance and how well they can execute to close out a game. The 40-minute games are always much better for the viewer.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're better for us as long as it doesn't turn into a bit of a stalemate, which one of them kind of stumbled a little bit into. But there's so many epic moments in it, and really we're seeing the culmination of clashes in this game. We're going to have Froggen versus Alex in the middle. Actually, I believe it's Alex's birthday as well today, which immediately makes it an interesting thing. That could be complete internet usual thing, happy birthday, Dyrus style, but I don't know. It probably is, but I've not really been watching his stream, so I guess we can find out. But hopefully we'll. Yeah, they're all saying happy birthday to him, so happy birthday, Dyrus, indeed. So CLG obviously listening to the stream. So let's, without further ado, drop you into the desktop so you can see that they are all here, ready and waiting to go. And okay, so let's get straight down to business. This is CLG versus Moscow 5. We can run down the lanes, and we've got some pretty epic encounters. We've got Wicked versus Darian at the top there. We're all hoping that Darian's back on form. He's over his illness or whatever he had. The lurgy, the plague that we caught. Quite a few people caught from Kiev. You've got, in the middle, you've got Froggen versus Alex, which is outstanding. You've got two fantastic junglers in Diamonds and Snoopy. And down the bottom, you've got two AD and supports that have pretty much been on the top of their game. I mean, obviously, Moscow 5 running over Kiev. CLG pretty much running over anyone they've met online. So we're getting really the clash that I guess a lot of people kind of wanted to see in Kiev.
Yeah, it's true. It was unfortunate with the way CLG EU was dealing with their sponsorship, how they weren't actually able to go to CLG. But, you know, all that's out of the way. We know they weren't there, but the great thing is we get to see them play now. And there's a couple things that I'm really looking forward to seeing here. Both the bottom lanes of CLG EU and M5 have really kind of been crushing throughout this whole tournament. They've been forcing teams into sort of panic picks because they're winning so hard. If you remember I think it was the Cypher semi-final against M5 that Cypher actually picked an Urgot Alistair bottom lane because they were just sort of so panicked into always losing bottom lane that they were saying, okay, we have to go all in, win early game, and then they still didn't win early game against that lane. I'm actually looking forward to, you know how in a lot of the Kiev tournaments and in MLG Providence people do the pick statistics here?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it if someone did it here because I don't think we've seen Sivir lose in a really long time. So she's either banned, and it seems like the team that gets Sivir in bottom lane pretty much always wins the game so far in this tournament.
I know you got up early, but there's a thread, an interesting thread on Reddit actually, that somebody has done a full breakdown of basically the last, obviously what's happened throughout this tournament, what happened in Kiev, and a little bit of C Discount Cup as well, and they've put together sort of who's won and who's lost in the lanes. It's actually a very good thread. I'm trying to think where it is. I definitely saw it earlier today. It may have slipped off the front page already.
That would be great to take a look at. But either way, I'm really not expecting these teams to sort of give each other Sivir unless they really think that their bans are extremely important, / they think they have an answer for how well Sivir's done in this tournament. Aside from that, the first pick Sona that we've been seeing all tournament, it seems like, at least watching the semifinals in the group stage, CLG is the only team in this tournament who really doesn't care about Sona. They probably, I mean, we know that they won't ban it because none of these teams have been banning Sona, but they probably won't first pick it if it comes through. I think they could care less if M5 gets Sona, and they're probably going to be just fine taking something like Soraka or Janna into the lane because they're comfortable with the other support matchups, and they've shown that they can handle Sona in every game this tournament previously. They're the only team this tournament who actually hasn't even dropped a game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out bottom lane for sure.
Yeah, and of course, like we're saying, is the top lane really what is going to happen between these two? Because Wicked actually didn't have that much fun against Mistral. I think it's safe to say that. Whether he was purposely playing passive or whether Mistral just played very well at the top there. It was Angus, wasn't it, at the top?
It was.
Just played very well. And the same could also be said for Diamonds against SkyArt.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, when you think about it, both of the top laners in this final, which are Wicked and Darien, struggled in the semifinals. If you remember even the first M5 game with Darien, he was on, I believe, Mordekaiser against Bloodthirster Rush Nidalee. And that Bloodthirster Rush Nidalee went nuts in that game. It was killing the tower. It killed Darien multiple times. SkyArt had 9 kills when the rest of his team all had 0. And really, Darien's sort of letting SkyArt get to that point in a little sense was what kept Cypher in a lot of those games. So, you know, some of that could be attributed to the illness, and you never know how that works in those situations. Wicked, on the other hand, in the semifinal, he also struggled. You're right. He died a couple times to the Ahri in Game 1. He got level 1 ganked and died. In Game 2, let me think. Yeah, he lost his tower to Kennen and seemed to be struggling almost the whole time. So, yeah, those were, you know, they're really both super famous top laners. Everyone thought, even though Diamond has won the MVP in Kiev, a lot of people were saying, you know, Darien should have got it because of such a strong play. And Wicked has been kind of a stalwart of the top lane and just never, you know, he's always been one of the best European top laners and never had, you know, problems finding a team, always been really outspoken, always been really good in top. And the matchup that I'm hoping to see the most would be somehow another Shyvana Aurelia matchup. Because, okay, here we go into picks. There was a lot of flack that people threw around after the finals in Kiev, where people were saying, oh, Aurelia just can't handle Shyvana, they should have banned Shyvana. And Wicked was saying, no, Aurelia destroys Shyvana. I should have just been playing it. And we'd obviously get to see it if that happened here.
So here we go, picks and bans, let's get underway, and immediately the two pretty much steady bans throughout this entire tournament. Rise being taken straight out with that is really towards Alex, or whether it's just a general, we really don't want Rise in this game. And Rammus, of course, taken out, which is interesting because Snoopy has never taken Rammus yet in a game we covered.
It's true, and Rammus has obviously just been a general ban because he's so good at ganking through the lane, ganking through wards, and people are just... They don't like the way you have to play in the lane against Rammus, which is always stay behind the halfway point in your lane, and it just takes away a lot of the different plays. And here we have a lot of, well, really fast-fire bans. These teams are ready to go. They're not thinking that much. I don't even have time to keep up. That's 6 bans so far. The main target ban that I could see out of all of this would be the Alistair ban and the Cassiope ban. Alex each has Cassiope, which is the one thing he doesn't play, and he said this before in mid. He doesn't necessarily play Cassiope, so they're banning that off of COG. And so fast. Okay. Who cares about the bans? First pick Sivir. I think that's huge.
And immediately Sona and Shyvana picked straight up by Moscow 5.
Yeah, and this actually leaves the door open for an Aurelia-Shyvana match up top if COG so pleases.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, Wicked the most outspoken about that lane.
Obviously, Shyvana would have to go top. Meanwhile, we've seen Shyvana in the jungle many a time. But with the Gangplank ban, it seemed the pattern in Kiev was if they could get Shyvana and Gangplank, then they jungle Shyvana. But if they don't have Gangplank, then they top Shyvana. So we'll see if that continues here.
Yeah, and the big thing also is whether they get given Lee Sin, which is when they've been running Lee Sin in jungle and obviously Shyvana up top. Looking like we're possibly going to get... Now, see, this is the thing. We think it's going to be a jungle Maokai, but it's highly possible it could be anywhere else. It could be baiting them into it. And of course, the other pick, I guess they're going to go for a support. They want to try and counter as much as possible.
Yeah, they definitely do want to try to counter. There's not really any counters to Sona. I think they're just, you know, going to pick support for support because there's no counters. They already have their AD. I'm quite certain that is a jungle Maokai. Of the 5 games this tournament that Snoopy's played in the jungle, 4 of them have been on Alistair. That's banned. The one other game has been on Maokai, and I doubt they're doing Maokai unless they really have something in store for us. They might be listening to the stream here and saying, how are they going to react to our Maokai pick? But we shall see.
I'm intrigued to see whether they actually go with this. I don't think they will. They were playing it in practice games, apparently. A jungle Mundo. Wow, okay, so Misfortune has been locked in. So, again, we're seeing Misfortune. They took it before, and it is going to be Mundo. Question is, will it be jungle Mundo or top lane Mundo?
Wow, I did not expect that to be locked in. Snoopy just PM'd me and said Jungle Mundo, so apparently
They apparently I saw it
this
in
is
the
the thing
Reddit
they
thread,
do.
and people said, yeah, they have been practicing Jungle Mundo. So, wow.
Hey, he's got an AoE just like Shyvana, and he's also resourceless. So, all power to him. Let's see how this works. And here we go, now that they know it's a Jungle Mundo, because that was Snoopy, it's from a player from COG EU, so they know that Mundo's in the jungle, and that Wicked will get to play against Darien on Shyvana in the top lane. Will we get to see the
Oh God.
Aurelia-Shyvana matchup like I wanted to see before the game?
I'm not going for the Blitzcrank in mid. Well, and of course they have the AP pick, and Anivia is available, which I was about to say. So it is I think someone called it the fire versus ice. It's what's it called? The
Cryo Phoenix?
cryo phoenix. That's the thing versus obviously the dragon, which is Shyvana. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah. See
interesting.
if Shyvana can melt the slow bird.
Okay, so what immediate counter will Moscow 5 think in mid? What is Alex going to play? Oh, is it going to be
Oh,
Oriana?
well, I hope if it is that everything's fixed. Okay. He's messing around with
That's a
us
very good
as
point. I
well.
forgot about the broken
He's
client.
messing around with us as well. So while he's deciding to lock in, I want to point something out here. All the other teams, pretty much, that have been playing against COG EU all tournament had been target banning Froggen's Anivia and Wicked's Aurelia, because those are the two most played champions for both of CLG's solo laners. But what M5 has essentially said is, we care more about your jungle Alistair, or the fact that you could randomly have Rammus or Cassiopeia, and we're just going to give you your bread and butter champions because we feel like we can deal with them. And it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. I'm thinking this Galio is probably what he's finally decided on.
So I think the murmurings have already hit around the internet because the viewers just definitely spiked that yes, there is a Jungle Mundo in the first
Yeah.
game for Moscow 5.
Everyone flock. We have to see this.
We have to see how this is going to work out. This is going to be an interesting step out, and really, from these picks, who are you fancying straight away? Because both teams have kind of got parts of their normal strats that they would always run.
They really do. Moscow 5 has their Shyvana and their Sona, as well as even their Galio, who they seem to run very, very commonly. And then COG has Sivir, who almost gives him an edge on her own. Anivia, who was absolutely dominating the one game we actually saw Frog get it. And then Wicked on his, ever-favorite top laner, Aurelia. It's gonna be really, really interesting to see how this Jungle Mundo plays out.
It is, and obviously they're waiting out to transfer, I'm guessing, unless it's actually going to stick that way. Which
If we actually look at
they've stuck it that way.
They have stuck it that way. Someone actually pointed out we're able to view players' profiles during the champ selection. So even though I really want to go down a quick rundown of the teams, I really want to see what this guy's got planned for Jungle Mundo, because I've never seen it before.
Is it not
He
sunk
actually
in
has
really?
6% spell van.
Is it not sunk in what's happened? Snoopy on Jungle Aurelia, Wicked on Maokai top.
That seems odd.
That does seem odd. Did they just fail to transfer that, or are we going to have a restart, or is actually that what they're going with? Which
I don't. I feel like they almost just failed the swap because I missed that.
I hope Snoopy is going to message you, or we've been completely caught out and has our M5. So I guess we'll soon find out. We have this 3-minute gap, obviously, which is all purposely for anti-ghosting with the wards, etc. So those are your teams, and really Moscow 5, I think, have got a very strong team there. But then again, so have CLG, and both teams have been on the top form. I guess you're messaging Snoopy right now again. Are you serious?
I'm trying to figure this out. Maybe they're all on loading screen, but obviously, if they are in the game playing, then they won't be responding to me. But if they've quit, then maybe we can find out early. Regardless, let's
go
this
with
throws
it.
everything off,
Yeah.
basically.
There we go. Yeah.
They have all quit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting. I was like, that can't be right. That cannot physically be right. I guess the game will be going up in a blind pick. So, well, let's break it down as it actually should have been. Let's break down the lane. There we go. So, fail swap. I'm guessing between those two.
Well, yes, absolutely. So, I'll start with top lane, because this is the matchup everyone got to see play out in Kiev, and then everyone was an expert on that lane after the fact. I want to see how the upfront sort of trading damage advantage that Aurelia has on Shyvana early plays out versus Shyvana's shoving potential and counter jungling. Because the big complaint about TSM's playing of Aurelia in Kiev was that Aurelia was not playing aggressively enough. So the whole idea is Aurelia has to harass Shyvana down, so Shyvana's doesn't have enough health to go into the jungle and counter, basically. So expect Aurelia to be sort of fighting Shyvana every time Shyvana comes to get in creeps, and then Aurelia trying to use her built-in sustain to keep up with that. And I think that's what's going to decide the lane, because if Shyvana can shove without getting harassed, then Shyvana wins, because right after that, it takes Aurelia a while to clear the creeps after that fact, and Shyvana can run into the jungle. Whereas if Aurelia can harass Shyvana down to the point where he doesn't feel comfortable running into the creeps, then Shyvana essentially loses, because she can no longer roam around since she's got this big creep wave in her lane that's going to be pushing her tower, and she has to stay to CS that. So that's going to be really the most interesting lane, because everyone had decided that, oh, Aurelia can't play against Shyvana, but obviously Wicked thinks otherwise, because they actually pick that into Shyvana and say, okay, this is a counter.
And this is his reputation on the line, because State of the League was basically saying Rainman should not have lost that lane at all. Aurelia versus Darien on Shyvana. He said there's no way that lane should ever lose. So really, we're going to put your money where your mouth is. Time it is really in a final, which is a pretty big deal. Now, of course, you've got the ganking potential up the top there, which is going to be Snoopy and Maokai coming up to help. But you've also got diamonds on Mundo, which is really something we've not seen in a tournament game for forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And analyzing the ganking potential of Mundo is something that's fairly difficult for me, because I've never actually paid attention to jungle Mundo. While he does have the nice kind of range cleaver slow, that feels a lot kind of like an Amumu Bandage Toss type gank potential, which is really low. And it's even worse than that, because if he lands a cleaver, then he's still got to walk up to someone. So Mundo's gank potential is quite low. I'd be interested to see how fast he's actually able to jungle on Mundo, because if it's anything like Shyvana, then he's going to play it in the fact where he's just invading the jungle and trying to force fights and fight people in the jungle that way. Obviously, the early ganking potential, like pretty much every jungler Snoopy picks, goes to Maokai. Maokai and both Alistar have insane early game ganking potential, and I'm pretty sure that's just Snoopy's style. He ganks early, and he likes to give his lanes advantages. Obviously, M5 is going to know this, so they're probably going to put up a lot of early wards, and I'd imagine they have a plan for that. Mid lane with Froggen versus Galio is actually a matchup I didn't exactly expect. I was expecting something a lot more almost aggressive against the Anivia, because while a Galio lane is really good, and Alex has shown a lot of prowess with it, a Galio lane is kind of... It's almost a farm lane. You pick it because he's able to withstand a lot of things like Cassiopeia and then turn it around on him. But Anivia doesn't really seem like something you're trying to withstand. They seem like almost similar characters. They both have kind of that long-range poke and can clear waves really, really fast. So I'm curious whether he's going to be able to harass down Anivia enough with his skill shots on Galio, or whether that's just going to turn into an absolute farm lane. Obviously, in bottom, I'm a little excited to see Miss Fortune, because we haven't seen that much of her. I think we saw one game 2 days ago in the semifinal.
Yep.
And it's been pretty well. So it's the Sona, which is the super strong support alternate, and then against COG, who could care less about Sona, like we said in the pregame, but they have the Sivir, who has been the character of bottom lane if I had to pick one in this tournament. So Sivir Soraka versus Sona MF. I feel like the early laning advantage definitely goes to MF, and then it's going to be Sivir trying to take over late game.
Okay, so let's get into the very first matchup, and hopefully... Yeah, it's working straight in there. Beautiful. Thank you very much, XSplit. It's actually working for me. So it's going to be Moscow 5 versus CLG EU, and that is the European team of CL Gaming. Not to be mixed up with their US counterparts, who are also incredibly good. So Immediately we can see, obviously, let's give a quick roster rundown in case you just missed Jat's expert opinion on pretty much how the lanes are going to play out. For CLG, there's going to be Aurelia on Aurelia on Wicked. It's the classic Wicked on Aurelia. Snoopy on Maokai, Crepo on Soraka down the support down the bottom lane with Yellow Pete on Siva. In the mid it will be Froggen on Anivia. Against them for Moscow 5, the winners of Intel Extreme Masters Kiev, it will be Gosu Pepper on Sona down the bottom lane. Alongside him will be Genja on Misfortune as the AD carry. In the middle it will be Alex Each on Galio, farming away like a pro, and Darian up the top on Shyvana. And immediately we're seeing Froggen and Alex seeing each other in the mid here. And of course it is going to be Diamonds on Mundo, Dr. Mundo in the jungle. That is correct, that is what you heard right. And immediately, actually, Froggen and Alex are having a little poke towards each other. Interested to see how it's going to turn out down the bottom as well. You can see Yellow Pete has a good vision of them. And Froggen actually did get caught out with a quick blast from Alex there. But no initial invades. Baiting him into a stun straight away in the mid there as well. So this one, this is going to be one to watch down the mid, surely.
Yeah, and then they both go back to base after that little poke war.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you managed to actually look at any of the runes. Is there anything you're particularly spotting between the players? I'm just having a quick spin around them.
No, I was unfortunately not able to see all the runes. You can see Galio has obviously magic resist flat blues and the mastery, so he's running at 49 MR. Wicked has runed a substantial amount of armor, as well as having the flat MR blues. He's got 37 armor at level 1 just by starting boots. The only rune page I actually did look at was Dr. Mundo, if anyone's wondering. He had 6% spell vamp, 15% attack speed, and then 13 armor. And I don't remember exactly what his blues were. And another thing to note really quick before the action really gets underway is that bottom lane, even though we've been seeing heal flash on the AD and CV flash on the support the entire tournament, this game, Yellow Pete has actually brought Cleanse, because if people haven't noticed, and I haven't pointed out already, M5 has an absurd AoE comp. The Sona, the Galio ult, the MF ulti, and the Shyvana ulti all going off at once. If Sibber were to get caught in one of those stuns and not be able to cleanse out of it, he would basically die immediately. So I think that's why he brought Cleanse.
Yeah, instant death. So red buff was pulled on towards Galio there. That was pretty much helped and assisted by top and mid there. Meanwhile, Maokai is going about his business, picked up the blue, went the standard route. Down the bottom there was a bit of poke between the two. You can see Crepo is also getting focused by Gosu Pepper, trying to play that very aggressive Sona down the bottom here, as we've kind of come to expect. I can see Mundo actually pings of diamonds going in towards the red buff.
He walked right through a ward though, so they know that a level 2 red buff Mundo just ran into their jungle. And instead of actually going to try to stop him, Snoopy is just kind of saying, I'm going to stay away from you because I know you're here. The thing is, Diamond doesn't know he walked through a ward, but Snoopy definitely knows he's here, so it's an interesting back and forth that we're going to see.
Yeah, and if anything, he's just trying to delay him. I think Diamonds has, realised it. Actually pulls the red. No, he's just going to bait it away. Oh, he is going to fight it around the corner here. Okay, Snoopy's realised ping goes down.
He might be envisioning that ward right there.
Froggen's going to come down. Will he manage to land the stun on him? It's going to be all about that stun, except Froggen might get popped to rebirth here. Diamond taking down very low. Could be first blood. Surely Snoopy will finish it off. He will do. And that's going to be rebirth popped. Will it be taken down in time?
And
just one more hit. And Froggen respawns. Can he land the stun? No, he can't. Alex managed to use the flash up, and CLG coming out superbly well in amongst all that. And that is really the ideal first blood they were after.
It really is, and it just goes to show that one of the best counters to a super aggressive counter jungler is just a really early ward at the entrance to the larger side of your jungler. So for the blue team on the bottom, the ward is exactly there, the one we saw, and it would be in the sort of mirrored side on the other part of the map. Because if someone's going to be invading your jungler, they're going to be invading generally through that choke point. So that was just a smart early ward by CLG to take advantage of it.
Big gank coming down. You can see on the mid, they're going to miss the stun though. But there is a lot of red buff potential onto Alex there. Both of them obviously caused Froggen picking up that red buff earlier on. Down the bottom, very low Yellow Pete there as well, being harassed again. Goes through Pepper, and look at Crepo. Crepo down to absolutely nothing. They have to back away in this bottom lane. They're just trying desperately to keep alive in the lanes with the health pots. It should be enough for Yellow Pete, but I think Crepo is in dangerous territories right now. In the mid, Froggen actually didn't go back, which Alex has gone back twice now. So he's going to be missing out on the CS. I expect that to obviously ebb in the favour of Anivia, which actually is ideal in these early levels. Looking down the bottom, you can see Snoopy also coming down. They know that Crepo is low. Is he going to go towards Genja? We saw Snoopy, yeah, immediately backing away. That ward there in the river. And they're going to wisely back off.
Another pretty smart ward there. If you could only place one ward bottom, which is what they were down to, or at least what they wanted to place, was pretty much the best place for it. And yet, top, Diamondez, even with dying, is still the same level as top lane, so that jungle Mundo is pretty fast.
It's pretty fast indeed. He has got blue buff on, which obviously he didn't take till after that invade. And I think Wicked is not falling for this one yet. He's going to wisely back away and fight on his turret, which is going to delay Diamond a little bit there. Bottom lane, meanwhile, have completely backed, so they're just going to pick up the golems, actually. So Snoopy is quite happily allowing that one. Let's have a look towards the mid. You can see 20 CS to 22, so despite the fact they've had all this fighting, they are still very much even between them. The little poke continues at the top there, but let's have a look at these two top lanes. What are we making of them so far? They're up to level 5, starting to get their skills are starting to build up.
Right, and it seems like it's been really even thus far, and Darian's actually managed to shove Wicked in early, so if he's able to do that throughout the next levels, especially once he gets some lifesteal, he'll win that lane. Wicked really needs to stop that lane from getting to his tower, and he will need to go and buy a ward fairly quickly, because the whole reason he was pushed back to his lane there is he just kind of sensed that Mundo was there ready for a gank. And if there's one thing I have to say about Wicked, he's incredible at actually avoiding ganks. So.
Okay, just looking down the bot lane, this time Snoopy's managed to get himself into that river bush. The ward had run out before he got there, so they're not aware of his positioning. They're just waiting for Genja to try and bait him a little bit further. They probably will come down now. Gosu Pepper, you can see Gosu Pepper's going to try to zone them out and do as much as he can. Puts that ward down, might get a bit of a shock, and keep on my eye on Mundo at the moment. He's in the river. We're just waiting for this one to happen. He walks straight in towards Gosu Pepper, and that's going to be Snoopy getting straight on him. It surely will be a kill. It will be. Snoopy picks it up, and that was very nicely done. Sort of walks straight into him there, was not aware, and that is Alex actually putting the ward down on Wraiths, which is what that ping was all for. But CFG has started off pretty brightly here.
They really have, and it's all just kind of snowballing off of the early supremacy of Maokai and Maokai ganks in the jungle. Maokai, as we saw, is very dangerous to jungle invade on just because he has the hold and so many slows, really. If he catches you in the jungle, it's very hard to escape. And obviously we saw that with the Mundo kill. And then, you know, he's also a great ganker, as we said earlier, and he gave his bottom lane a quick early advantage with that bottom ganks, whereas Mundo really can't necessarily gank anywhere. He can just try to clear the jungle quickly.
So I'm going to keep my eye on these top. You can see Darian is up to 6 there, trying to harass on towards Wicked. He has got Mundo coming. Actually, Mundo going towards Snoopy on the blue, which has just been pulled into the bushes. Did they see Diamonds? Yes, because he'd have crossed over that river, actually, which is why they wisely backed away from it. Knew he wasn't high enough to take it.
The thing is, Froggen is completely out of mana here, so if he wants to invade this, he can actually, even though he doesn't have much health, he can invade this a lot safer than he did the red. He'd just have to go immediately, and he's deciding against it once that CB goes down. Oh, wait a minute, here comes Darian.
Yeah, Darian coming across. I'm waiting to see whether Alex is actually going to cross over as well, because they know that Froggen's gone back. Whether
they have to hurry if they're going to do this, because if they stick around any longer and Nivea's going to get here, at this point it's too late to invade, and they should just get out of there.
Should back out, and immediately Wicked's attention's pulled over. Alex has just been spotted by Snoopy's immediate sapling. And I think there's going to be a fight for this one. I don't think they're going to let them have it easily. I think it's going to be trying to steal it. Alex is going to be careful. He has got his ulti up. That's the Nivea ulti caught out there. And Snoopy's dived on towards Diamonds. Oh, the stun just getting out of it for the flash there. And again, the fight continues down the bottom lane. It is all clear, so we're going to stick to this one. And see, really they are causing themselves trouble. It's causing CLG to miss it out.
It's been a minute and a half long kind of game of chicken around blue buff, and it's just slowly something's getting decided. Snoopy's hiding.
There they go, they're diving in. Alex has actually managed to plant his ulti. I don't think it's going to be enough though. Snoopy will go down in amongst it, so it's one apiece. And meanwhile, Darian was the one that picked it up. Diamond is going to back away. Actually didn't really lose any health in amongst all that. Has got his ulti, remember. He can just generate. Actually, no, he hasn't. He's only 5 still. Hasn't got it. So I think CLG might actually come off the better of this one. Yeah, Darian has wisely backed away. Returned to farming. You can see Diamond still trying to steal it. Oh, what a great stun! And a kill by Crepo. That was an incredible stunt from Froggen there. Through the bushes, and Crepo picking up the kill. Not ideal, but still he'll take it. And that is Diamond's actually dying twice now in that jungle. Really, you got to think Moscow 5 possibly should have given up on that one a little earlier.
They really should have. As soon as they didn't get it, basically I was saying, as soon as Anivia arrived, seeing as Mundo was already low health, Maokai had a health advantage on him, and Galio hadn't just shopped like Anivia had, so there was both an item and a mana advantage on Anivia. They were just fighting a half a man down intentionally without an advantage. So it was just, they were trying to force too hard, and CLG punished them for it.
I can't decide whether Mundo having his ulti in amongst all that would have been helps out considerably, because obviously you get a huge health regen from that.
Yeah, I feel like it would have definitely helped considerably. He was at half health or below that entire time, and he's still not level 6 because, you know, he's been trying to force too many things. He's only died, like, he's been juggling fairly quickly. As you can see, he's the same level as Maokai.
Snoop is going to come straight down river. I'm just going to have to catch this one out because Diamond's going to dive into him. He's had to use his flash up. I think he should be enough. He's got the Sivir ulti to back away. Will that trigger a dragon? I think it will. It will. Are all four going to go up to it? Yes, they will. No, they're back away. They've pulled it out, but they've seen that Froggen has come down, just watching each other pass by, and in fact they are going to back out of that one because...
And I think smartly. They did not have really the health or the resources to...
Oh, but Darian's coming down. So I think they're going to go for it again. Darian heading down the river. And here he comes. So that's going to surely... Immediately I expect to see Wicked actually starting to head south. He realises that obviously there's going to be a dragon attempt here, catching out on Darian there, putting the ward down and the wall, and the beautiful stun. Will it be enough to deal the damage? It won't be. They're going to have to back away from that one. They're going to dive in for an ulti used by Darian there, straight on towards Snoop, and he's going to try to back away, and that will surely trigger a easy dragon. Now, meanwhile, down the bottom lane, Ghostu Pepper also getting caught out. The Boomerang Blade going across, is fizzing over him, and Froggen is pulled it out. You can see Clairvoyance has gone down. Will it be enough for Moscow 5 to manage to keep on to this one? You can see the stun going to come across. It will not be enough to steal the kill, and Moscow 5 pick up the first dragon while Wicked continues pummeling that top tower.
Yeah, so well played there by M5. Darian had actually managed to shove Wicked back considerably, but it took them so long to actually get the dragon play to work. They had to harass out Maokai before they felt they could safely go for the dragon 4v5. So even though he had shoved really well before he came down, it took too long for the dragon play to develop, and now Wicked's able to get that top tower.
There is the top tower. First one down. CLG picked that up. It is this one here, in case, just because I didn't show the camera on it. It was pretty obvious it was going down. Just keeping my eye on this bottom one because they've both been pretty low down the bottom. How do you rate it so far? I mean, it's 82 to 102. Misfortune with that big lead in CS at the moment, which, you know, overall 20 CS is a pretty huge lead considering they've got the dragon as well.
It is a pretty huge lead, but I also definitely can't say that I'm surprised. You can tell when a team picks Misfortune, they're basically saying we really kind of want to win the lane. Not to mention, CLG didn't bring summoners for the lane. The Sivir has the cleanse basically for Galio, who's not even a part of that lane. So just going into it, they just don't have as many weapons. They have no heal on their AD carry. They have no heal on the support. They just have, CLG has to play that lane conservatively to begin with. So the fact that they're only down now, even after the shop trade, 10 CS, so between 10 and 20 CS, it's really not that bad, especially when you take into account that they haven't died yet. So I'd say, even though that M5 is winning this lane currently with the Misfortune, CLG is playing it really well.
The invade is on.
Game they could potentially
Darian has just come in and took the wolves away and then returns back to mid lane. So even without a tower, he's not worried about it. Snoopay's just pinged this. Snoopay got an Oracle on now, so we've got to keep our eye on that one as well. Mundo does not have one just yet. They realise that Snoopay is around that corner. In fact, he's going to get back away. He's got to be careful he doesn't get caught out between the two here. He's actually in the Dragon Pit. Does have flash up, but Wicked's going to cause him all sorts of problems here. I think it might be enough. And he had to use his ulti to get out of that one. So immediately Mundo's ulti is burned up. Darian is going to continue his farm on the top there. And Alex really wasn't able to help out. He's just going to ward up there. He's going to get caught out by Snoopay. Yeah, they're well aware of that one. So at the moment, how do you rate it? Which way is this swinging? Obviously it's a 4-1 advantage to CLG, but that's just early lane stuff. It could swing, and you can see that M5 still really playing their same style. They're not altering their path.
Yeah, they're still playing super aggressive. If I had to say, even though Wicked has a really slight CS advantage, this matchup is not playing out the way he said it would, because as you can see, he's still getting shoved to the tower. Darian is still able to roam around. Darian actually left the lane for about a minute and took Dragon,
mid
and
lane.
He's still even on CS.
Oh, they're back.
So, not a good matchup for Aurelia, it appears.
Just keeping my eye on Snoopay. Is going to come around. Actually, Darian dives in for him, gets silenced immediately there. That's a flash away from Crepo. Crepo's going to have to get away from that one. It will be enough to save him and cover him off, but you can see that Alex was also coming across there. Froggen and Aurelia, we have a 4-man invade for this blue buff yet again. Meanwhile, the two ADs continue to stand and bang down the bottom there, just farming away. And this one could go either way. Remember, Alex has his ulti. Diamond does not have his ulti. Actually, it is. He's back up. It must have just come back up. Meanwhile, there's
actually a pink ward in Wicked in COG's blue brush, and they keep killing any wards.
Oh, they've caught out Diamonds there. Will it be enough? Gosu Pepper had to use his ulti, and he's just about taking now. Wicked gets him. Alex is also planted, going straight in there, but I don't think they've got enough damage in amongst all this. Moscow 5 coming out very badly at this time. Alex is surely not going to get away from this one. Wicked, meanwhile, is cutting off their escape, and a beautiful silence there to prevent him zipping across the riverbed. And that has turned out 2-0, sorry, in CLG's favour, and the blue buff, of course, will keep theirs. Meanwhile, down the bottom, though, you can see that Genja is winning out quite considerably.
In the bottom lane, actually, Genja, when all the amazing action was happening up at Blue Tower, Genja actually went through the tower and just completely pushed Sivir out of the lane. So Sivir's getting denied. Multiple creeps at the towers, soon going to get killed by. But yeah, M5... Genja showing how much stronger he is than Yellow Pete at the moment. And just as a general game thing, M5 is almost, they're kind of throwing the game away with their over-aggression at blue. COG is really, really ready for those invades, and M5 is not recognizing how well prepared COG EU is to those invades. And if you just think of the game as this general thing, that's the 4th out of 6 deaths, maybe 5th, that M5 has taken trying to invade buffs. So nearly every single death this game has been due to them being a little too overzealous with their invades.
Just completely countered by COG, like you say, they're reading into it, which is actually something at Kiev that teams were just not doing. They were so prepared and stuck in their ways of like, okay, we are running this strat. They weren't seeing the danger ahead of them, and maybe Moscow 5 really on the tail end of that one for the first time, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, definitely, and I almost got to blame Diamondez a little bit for this, because he has the style of really loving to invade and bully in the jungle, and he's great at that when he's ahead. But because his first invade didn't work, he's essentially been a little bit far behind all game. As you can see, he's 0-3-0 on Mundo, doesn't really have many items, doesn't have that much max health, which Mundo really, really needs. Yet he's still invading over and over again, and he's just not strong enough to. He doesn't have the health, he doesn't have the damage, and he's sort of useless during these invades, so... He needs to farm, basically. He needs to catch up a little bit. He needs to become a big Mundo who can actually go where he pleases, because right now, he can only go in kind of in his own jungle where he pleases, because if he goes anywhere else, he's going to die.
So CLG setting up for Dragon here. You can see Snoopay is on full ward control. He's obviously not checking the standard place. Oh, they're going to cut off Darian, and they've caught him in a beautiful stun and the wall. That's surely going to be a dead Darian. He's had to ulti his way out of that one, but that is going to set up perfectly, and Misfortune ulti as well. And now the Dragon fight is
completely whiffed. And Darian face checking with almost no health, just about dies.
And that's surely going to set up the Dragon for CLG. I don't think Moscow 5 really can do a great deal about it. They've already burnt up 2 ultis. Darian's out of the fight already. He's had to port away, and that will be CLG taking the Dragon. So that's going to make it all square in Dragons. And of course, the difference now is the kills. They both have 1 tower apiece. Alex, in the meantime, he's just got to keep farming. He's got to build himself up, because he's actually had a pretty even battle in the middle here with Froggen. Only 10 CS between the two. It's all about Genja. They need to protect Genja, I think, now.
Yeah, they really do, and Sivir, or we're talking about Genja. Yeah, Genja has won his lane substantially, and if you actually look at every lane individually for M5, mid lane traded pretty well. I feel like Shyvana actually, even though Aurelia's 3-0, those are from jungle invades. Shyvana was the good matchup top. Darian essentially won that, so M5 won top lane, won bot lane, traded in mid, but they're behind because they lost the jungle pretty bad.
They are, and CLG proving really to the world that they are a top team. And, I don't think it was really too much in doubt, but it was. It's one of those questions. Until you really do it at the top in a final, that's when you prove yourself. Many people would say online, offline. Yeah, I can fully understand offline is where it's at, but until really they get a chance to turn up to one of those, obviously they cannot go to the grand finals in Hanover for Intel Extreme Masters. So I guess really, I don't know what they're going to be looking towards to gather those Season 2 points, but Moscow 5 are in a very strong position, and at the moment They are up against it. 6-1 down in kills and looking strong. So let's see how Darian and Wicked deal with each other. Wicked's just used his ulti up to farm out that lane. Darian is going to continue pressing on it. So really, it's a case of how strong they are at the moment. Darian continuing on there, but I feel Wicked is actually starting to poke away at him. Darian is going to continue to push it, and he realised that obviously there must be an imminent danger coming in. It was Mundo coming up through the jungle, and wisely backs away from that fight.
So you kind of saw there, even though Wicked has 3 kills to 0, Darian was still able to kind of push him back in a damage trade, and that just goes to show how much damage Shyvana has in duels, because Aurelia is one of the best duelers, and even though up on kills, still managed to get pushed away.
So let's have a look at the item builds. We've just seen Sivir going back. So they're both going this triple Dorans and Wriggles, and there's been a lot of debate about it over the last few days, and in fact so much so that I think Chaos has now said, okay, he's going to start running this because he's done the numbers, and he thinks it basically makes you strong in the early game, strong in the mid game, and then strong in the late game.
Yeah, well, it's definitely an interesting build. I ran a couple numbers here, and if there's one thing that I have to say about these item builds, the numbers are really hard, and even though KX says he's done the numbers, I'm a little curious whether he's actually done them properly, because it varies on so many different aspects. Depending on what level the champion is, depending on what his attack speed per level scaling is, depending on how many attack damage runes you have, all these things come into account. But I think if we had to do a general thing that's fairly true, the Wriggles Phantom Dancer build is better at the point where you complete it than other builds. But come late game, it's a little slower. And here we have a 5-man push by CLG down mid, and they're just going to take this tower with ease.
They are. Meanwhile, down the bottom, you can see Misfortune continues to push and farm. Up the top, Darian continues to push and farm. So they are keeping up on their lanes. And CLG have had to split off and respond to that, but I think Darian might get this tower before Wicked can do anything about it. And you can see there is a brilliant spot on Wicked at the moment. So he'll just clear that lane, and Darian will back away. Genja having a little look around, so even though he's just clearly pushed that bottom lane, still, even without view anywhere across the map, you can see he's got no view whatsoever of the river or anything. He's confident enough to go into that jungle and have a good peek around. Blue buff now, CLG looking to possibly come in and invade. They actually caught out Gosu Pepper there. Gosu Pepper's had to flash out to get away from Froggen there. Froggen trying his best to catch him out, but now Froggen is also in a little bit of trouble. They've got a 5-man collapsing around him on towards Froggen, but he does a beautiful wall and an ult here. Tries to pick up Gosu Pepper as he tries to get a little poke in there. Moscow 5 really fail in that, and down to purely beautiful play from Froggen, pulling that ulti across, pulling that wall across, and still trying to pick up the kill in amongst the 5-man collapse on him.
Yeah, and we see another really kind of strange build from Froggen. He has a Tear of the Goddess, which is the only kind of standard thing across these two games, but he also has a Hextech Revolver and a Spirit Visage. I can definitely understand the Revolver because he's healing up off the Galio poke to essentially make himself unstoppable in the lane. The Spirit Visage is a little confusing, because if he's buying it for additional spell vamp, it's really not giving him much. It's giving him about 4% extra spell vamp at this point. But you know, I guess he just he likes his tanky casters. We saw him build Warmogs on Anivia the last game. He's probably just looking to sustain some of the magic damage burst in teamfights so he can keep his persistent damage, which Anivia has some of the highest persistent damage of all casters. So you can get away without building much ability power on him and still do substantial work.
Okay, so bottom tower now gone down to CLG. Mid tower being a little bit of push, but going to have to back away from this one. And Laxam to use his speed to get out of the way. Darian has just been back aboard, got himself an Atmars to go with that phase early on this time, which is an interesting build straight away. Genja, meanwhile, has got that Phantom Dancer now complete. Looking towards Sivir. Sivir's gone for the Infinity Edge more than the Phantom Dancer to start with, so he's starting to build that big damage up more than the attack speed. Let's have a look around the rest of the build. You can see Diamond's now pulling that ward down on River. And really the ward controls for Moscow 5 is a problem at the moment, because Snoopy has been doing a fantastic job of going around systematically clearing them out all the way. And you can see the pings immediately just gone down there and said, look, they've just put some wards back down here. And if we look at the coverage, you can see CLG, they've got good vision of this bottom half of the map. Moscow 5 really are struggling. And that's all down to Snoopy.
And we've really seen Snoopy do this in almost every game this tournament. He will buy an Oracles at level 6, 7, or 8. And his team and himself have just done a really good job protecting that Oracles and using it for war control. Once he gets that Oracles, he does a great job of just not dying.
Here we go.
And here, this is a 5v5 fight that I feel like if CLG is able to engage on well, will essentially clean up the game right here, because they do have the advantage. And M5 is actually forcing here, so we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, Alex trying to look for an opportunity to flash ulti, I think, which is why CLG, you can see them splitting apart at the moment. They're trying to stick right to the edges. They're trying not to group up as much as possible because Alex is just waiting for his opportunity there. And look out for the silence as well from Crepo. They're trying to pull it out here. Will he go for the ulti? You can see the dragon has actually reset itself. They continue to try the best to poke it away. Meanwhile, Alex is taking a bit of damage in amongst all this. Gosu Pepper now is very low and low on mana, so he's going to be very close to not being able to do crescendo across the lot there. And Alex also taken down. That's the Sivir ulti used already to try and force them away. All the time, Dragon has reset itself, and we're keeping our eye on the health level. CLG far more healthier at the moment, but they are one ulti down, and it is a big important ulti as well. Alex trying his best to avoid the poke that CLG really are able to put out. Now they're split. Now they're split apart. Genji's actually stuck behind them. Alex has had to back away. They've gone a 3-1-1 complete split in terms of FPS style, and Darian just waiting for his opportunity. They need Alex to get in there, but I'm not sure if he can survive it. Really Darian has now gone in there, and that's a crescendo going across, and this M5 will really have to just get away from it because he was insta-popped as soon as he used his ulti there. Meanwhile, Genji
all the way from the fight by Anivia.
Completely kept out of it, and this is going to go hugely, as you suspected, for CLG because, well, they were just completely split up. As soon as they'd gone 3 different directions, they were instantly in trouble, and CLG going to come out of this one very well and pick up that dragon. And, well, you can immediately see that Genji's just going, right, okay, I'm going to have to try and take the tower and get just something, anything out of this one. I don't even think he's going to have the time. Yes, he will get that tower down. Darian did escape, but that was a 3 for nothing and a very clear exchange for CLG.
Yeah, and it was really cleverly played by CLG. They knew that they had the sustain advantage in the sense that they had Soraka versus Sona, and were quite happy just poking back and forth for as long as M5 wanted to. They ended up poking down M5 a little bit lower, and they were essentially just waiting for M5 to commit, because that's one of the great things about Anivia, especially on a player as experienced at Anivia as Froggen, is when a team does commit for you, when you place that wall, you're going to be able to make the fight some kind of odd numbers advantage. And initially, I think they were waiting for Galio to come in, and they were going to wall Galio away from the rest of the team. But when that didn't necessarily happen, and they were able to kill Galio immediately, Froggen was just like, okay, I see this amazing opportunity. Walled that small little choke point up towards blue buff, and just took Misfortune completely out of the fight. It was really expertly played by Froggen and CLG in general.
So, we are just seeing CLG systematically destroying Moscow 5 here. 9-1. This is the first game, so plenty of time to play for these guys. It is a best of 3. It is the grand finals of the Kings of Europe, which has been, frankly, a brilliantly timed tournament, because it's brought forward really everything that everybody wanted to see between CLG and Moscow 5. They've both made it to the finals, as everybody predicted, and they're just showing really the true dominance that they have currently in Europe. Obviously, the American teams really want to have their say. CLG US and definitely want to have their say. It is a Baron pull. I'm just waiting to see whether they're going to peel off, because Darian is actually at the side. Darian's ulti is back up there. They're going to dive on towards Mundo. Mundo is certainly the focus, which is going to surely pop down eventually, as Alex has managed to land his ulti, and Genji's managed to get his entire ulti across it as well, but it's just not enough damage right now, and that will be yet another kill. Darian goes down as well. Crepo surely is the target. Alex is going to have to get away from this one, but I think Froggen will surely have his number. He is going to be able to finish him off. He's had to use Gosu Pepper to escape that as best he can. Genji trying to use his Phantom Dancer to escape as much as possible. Now Froggen trying his best to split apart Gosu Pepper. He's going to continue chasing. Has got a heal up, and well, Gosu Pepper's continued to try and use anything to escape. The stun lands. Oh, wow. That's going to be surely dead. No, because he was just in the bush. Couldn't see him. There we go. And that is the end of him. Meanwhile, actually, Genji's come down the bottom here, and he fancies it. He's gone against Wicked here. I'm not too sure that was the right decision. No, Wicked's immediately turned around and says, that's a free kill.
Yeah, I think Genji just panic play. He said, I need to make something happen. We have 1 kill to 13. That was just what CLG was thinking there was really quite smart. They said, okay, we just won a 5v5 kind of poking battle of Dragon. The one way of forcing you guys to come fight us without us having to dive is to do buff control. Dragon's just down. Well, let's just do it on Baron. And, you know, they did a great job just picking people off. And look at Froggen just destroy Mundo.
Trying his best to get in there and get a smite. And I think they realize now that it is all over in this game. 15-1, huge score. And it's really just built up so slowly. And, well, what can we say? Wicked 8-0-3. He got fed off those jungle invades, and Is it a case of Jungle Mundo just doesn't work with the full aggressive style that Darian did, or is it just not quite worked out in this game? GG, well played, giving out. Actually, they've failed a surrender vote in there, which is 3-2. So someone on there is like, no, we're going to play this one out.
No, we're playing this out.
And that's going to be Snoopy getting kill. Yeah, Genja goes down. Darian going to drop as well. This is all going one-way traffic now. They can tank down this turret with the Baron buff and go straight through to the Nexus. And really a fantastic start for CLG. It went so well right at the beginning when they managed to catch out Mundo in the jungle.
It really did. And this Jungle Mundo, I'm not necessarily going to write it off yet. Obviously, everyone on the forums or Reddit is probably just going to say, how could they ever pick Mundo? But you got to keep in mind, if they would have pulled it off, they would have been geniuses, and everyone would be running Dr. Mundo. So it's just this one game. I don't think we can entirely tell that it's a huge failure, but this game in particular, yeah, it was a huge failure, this game. He over-invaded, he was over-aggressive, and he really kind of baited his team into losing.
And the big thing as well, Lee Sin was available, which is the immediate debate. So
yeah,
is it
true.
simply a case of getting caught out too early, too soon? If you remember, he got caught going for the red, caught going for the blue as well. They stuck around too long for that blue, and there was just a few small errors. That's all it was.
Yeah, I feel like it was mainly a case of just playing a little too aggressively and playing right into CLG's hands, especially in any kind of jungle fight. And the fact that M5 was forcing so many jungle fights, those Anivia walls are deadly, because any kind of jungle fight, as long as CLG sticks together and M5 is a little bit split up, which they were in almost every situation when they were invading blue, they were invading through, you know, 2 different entrances. The Anivia wall just devastated their team. And one thing I'd like to point out, as long as we're in the post-game screen in the builds here, is once again kind of how smartly CLG has been building their characters. I'm not necessarily going to comment on the Anivia build because Froggen is the Anivia master and he can build what he wants, and I can just say it's right. But as far as the other characters, like Wicked, for instance, building that early Aegis, he actually went Lantern straight into Aegis, recognizing that M5 had this intense AoE comp. Pretty much everything had to go right for M5 in those team fights, with the Galio ult on top of the Sona ult, on top of the MF ult, on top of the Shyvana AoE. You know, all of that AoE added together. But with the Aegis, you actually take that down a significant amount. People don't realize how much across the entire team that 15 magic resist from the Aura actually helps everyone else on your team. And I think that was one of the reasons, even though they had a slight advantage from the jungle invades, I think that's one of the reasons they were winning those dragon fights and those baron fights so substantially, is because of the Aura item that they had so early from Aegis and Frozen Heart. So it's just like M5 brought this big AoE 5v5 fight team, but CLG was like, you know what, we may not have the biggest 5v5 fight team, but we're going to build Aura items and be stronger than you in these 5v5 fights. And that's pretty much what they did.
Okay, so we're going to go to a quick break, and we will be back with the second match in the epic series that is Kings of Europe, brought to you by Chips and Noise. So, Moscow 5 versus CLG. Who will take away the title and really answer those questions we wanted in Kiev? So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and it is the Kings of Europe final, Moscow 5 versus CLG, and of course it is sponsored by Azus Gaming, so got to get the adverts in there for those sponsors, because really without them we would not have any of these tournaments happening, and obviously you guys wouldn't get to see these awesome games, and instead you just have scrims, which everybody knows don't mean nothing. Just ask TSM for that. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. 50k viewers, that is pretty impressive for a weeknight here in Europe, which effectively means either there's a lot of Europeans that are really into League of Legends right now, which I don't doubt there probably is, or there's a lot of naughty Americans that have gone to school with various iPads and stuff with this stream running. I'm not too sure.
There's lots of people watching this at school and work potentially. Or there's just lots of unemployed LoL fans, one of the two.
Which is entirely possible, but yeah, so anyway, we just, well, thank you Daniel for adding me. That's really helpful. Daniel Z. Klein adding me in the tournament client. Generally when we're on we kind of talk into each other anyway, so there's not much point in that. So anyway, they're just not quite ready, looks like the players, but let's just break down what we had in that game and what you really think will change in this one. I mean, we've just seen Genja really winning out the bottom lane. The mid lane was pretty even, but I think Froggen proved that Anivia is a potential ban right there. And Wicked, despite the fact Darien actually did pretty well in lane against them, came out with a pretty awesome score at the end there.
I really think that the main things that hinged that last game, that decided that last game, was COG's ability to punish the Jungle Mundo for invading, and also just Froggen's and Anivia play deciding team fights by splitting teams up. I expect M5 to probably ban Anivia. They weren't able to crush him in lane by any means, or punish him at all early in lane for picking Anivia. And then once the team fights rolled around, he was just this unstoppable thing that could wall off half your team, catch other people in AoE, landing all his flash shots, because he's played too much Anivia. Like, he's just so good at that character, and he's showing its potential in these games, but I expect M5 to get rid of that. And if Lee Sin's up again, the Jungle Mundo experiment may have to wait for another day. I have a feeling they won't do that again.
Yeah, so I mean, Lee Sin could be coming out of the bag. What do you think they're going to think of? If they're not going to ban Anivia, what would they play to counter?
I'm thinking something maybe like Ahri, or a very kind of jump-heavy team, so the walls aren't necessarily a big deal in team fights, but making team comps around being able to avoid an Anivia wall is actually really, really hard. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they do something like a Malphite again. We've seen a lot of that happening. But I really just, based on what I saw that game, and M5 knowing that COG plays Anivia so much going in, I think if they had a plan against Anivia, that they would have used it that game. You know what I mean? They knew that Froggen loves picking Anivia whenever he's up, and then they left it up. So they're basically saying, okay, you're going to pick Anivia, and we're going to be able to beat it. But now that hasn't worked out, I don't really know if they have another Anivia plan worked out, and I have a feeling they're more so just going to ban it to get rid of it.
And if they do ban it, they effectively leave something open, and it could potentially be Snoopy getting Alistair again, which he's done so well with, but really he's just did fantastically well with Maokai. So do you target a jungler?
If I was M5, I'd say that the jungle Alistair ban didn't really do them all that much, because Snoopy pulled off almost exactly the same plays with Maokai, and I think M5's, if they're trying to avoid a gank-heavy jungler, but there we go, another Alistair ban. I was going to say if they want to avoid a gank-heavy jungler, then they'd have to ban both Alistair and Maokai, or pick Maokai themselves, because I don't see that much of a difference in at least early game style between Alistair and Maokai, but obviously M5 thinks a little differently. And okay, there is the Anivia ban.
Yeah, so Anivia is taken straight out there. Rise again taken out by CLG. It has been a staple in pretty much throughout every single game. Rise has effectively been taken out. And it was interesting to see the stats on Karthus, actually. I think of all the games, I think what the stats worked out, he was banned basically in all 19 matches. And really everyone sort of lost with him.
Yeah, it's like he's banned, and if a team gets him, they lose. So maybe that's why they're banning him, because they don't want to lose. But no, it was just Karthus is really strong, but the teams that have been letting him through occasionally have just, through knowing how strong Karthus is, figured out ways to kind of attack his weaknesses really acutely, and they have just punished these Karthuses. I was going to say before this game, Alex is one of the most well-known Karthuses in Europe and has done the most successful with him in some of these games. And I was hoping that we might see some Karthus play from M5 at some point, but we'll see. So a Sivir ban going out, also a Soraka ban going out, which is a little odd. Totally switching up the bans this game. The only ban that stayed from M5 was Alistar. And obviously CLG recognizing the strength of Sivir, as they have done in the past. If they do not have first pick this tournament, they are banning Sivir, because they just do not want to have to deal with that champion.
And so obviously, of course, generally meaning we might see a Taric Cogmore. Obviously, Soraka taken out of there straight away. They've picked Sona, so they've sort of said, you're going to have Taric or something else in that bottom lane.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's left. I'd imagine they might go for a Nunu, and then just play with Wriggle's Cog, or a Cog with a lot of lifesteal, for their support. And they're doing the Gangplank. That was something that was left up. Expect to probably see that top lane from Wicked.
Yeah, that build, that unorthodox build that he uses, which kind of caught Scara off guard.
Yeah, Wicked just kind of builds what he wants on Gangplank, is what it seems, as well as skill builds. He was actually, for those of you that are wondering, he maxed E, the raise morale on Gangplank first in a lot of those lanes, and he was essentially just using it as a gank escape tool, because if someone ever came to gank him, he had so much move speed from maxing raise morale that he could just walk away from pretty much anything. And it worked surprisingly well. And okay, here we go, Lee Sin.
Okay, this is
Back
kind
to
of what we
basics.
expected. Yeah, back to basics indeed. So are we going to see a Shyvana again coming out here? So we could see the duo lane of invades. Now Shyvana only really got one single invade. Now obviously with Gangplank being picked early, is that a case of going, we're not actually worried about your Shyvana anymore?
It could potentially be, and they might know something. No one's really talked about a Gangplank Shyvana matchup, because in the past two tournaments when we've seen Gangplank or Shyvana, they've either both been on the same team or one of them's been banned. And here we have an Urgot to go with the Sona. So this is going to be some interesting battling bot lane. It's an Urgot versus a lane which has potentially no spell shield, and the only healer they'd ever be able to bring is Taric. So it's going to be a fairly low sustain lane. And here we have a Janna. So that'll be really interesting to see if that's enough poke bottom lane to just crush CLG. Because if they don't, like we've said in the past, picking this Urgot, assuming this is a bottom lane Urgot, he could very well go mid and we could be completely wrong. But yeah, very interesting bot lane. And man, maybe another Rammus. So early ganking junglers, Snoopy style. And there's seemingly too many of them to get rid of them all.
As many teams have found out, you cannot target ban everyone in the team. There's just not enough bans with 91 heroes available. So, Snoopy, this is... I'm trying to think whether we've seen him on Rammus throughout this tournament. Pretty much Rammus has been banned out most of it. We have seen about one or two, I think, throughout this event so far. And Janna down the bottom lane with Yellow Pete. So basically that means they haven't got too much cover if Urgot isn't in that bottom lane and Alex is poking on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say for COG, though, is they've ran Janna Cog. I think this is potentially the third game that they've ran that combo bottom lane. So they are very comfortable running those two champions in bottom. And when team fights roll around, Janna is probably the superior Protect the Kog'Maw support of all the supports available. And COG, as we've seen in the past few games, is just really, really good at surviving the laning phase at a disadvantage and then taking that into mid and late game and winning with it. So we'll see if they can do that again this game.
Okay, so let's see if they really are going to be playing got down the bottom lane against Cogmore. We have Shyvana there, so potentially going to be top lane. Twisted Fate.
Oh boy. There it is. Okay, so once again, M5 trying to pull out some curveballs. I don't necessarily know why they're pulling out these curveballs, whether they feel like they need to because they are somehow overmatched by CLG, whether they think they need to surprise them because their standard strategies won't work against CLG, or whether they just say, we've been working on these strategies for a while, and we think they're really, really good and better than the strategy we used at Kiev, which, as we saw with the Mundo, may not necessarily be true, and I'm actually a little bit worried about their team comp this game, but they're definitely going for kind of a bottom lane stomp, especially with that TF mid.
Yeah, so he's going to be looking for him to be porting straight down that bottom. I'm guessing there's going to be TF in mid. Oh, Ari in the mid against TF. Now that's quite dangerous because TF is pretty squishy and Ari really can close that gap very quickly.
Yeah, I really love COG's picks this game. I feel that just all around, their team comp synergy is just incredibly strong, whereas M5 has that strong synergy kind of bottom lane with the TF, Urgot, Sona potential ganks, but I don't see the mid-game team fight power or just the late-game scaling necessarily from M5, and they really have to. I feel like they have to win kind of snowball over teams like they had been in Kiev in order to win this game. But as we've seen in the past, this tournament, COG EU is incredibly resistant to getting snowball over because they are just so good at hanging around. And we'll see if that happens again in this game. I love COG's picks.
Okay, so I think it would only be fair to Chips and Noi if I actually did run ads this time, because they didn't work last time. It was just our thing. So it would only be fair. We're going to have a 3-minute gap anyway, but you've pretty much ran down what we're going to have, and we've got plenty of time at the start. So we'll be back in a few moments, guys. We're just going to have to run these ads. It's only fair to them. Okay, well, welcome back. I have no idea whether that's worked or not, so it's all good. But anyway, let's get down to business. So, Moscow 5 CLG, we think, or you think, and I actually think as well, because I'm never convinced by Urgot down the bottom, that they are really have completely outpicked them and counterpicked them every step of the way here.
It feels like it. I'm curious to see how well Alex holds up with TF, because especially in mid, TF against Ari looks like a very dangerous matchup for M5. TF, at least from what I've heard, is a rather weak laner, and you pick him necessarily for his mid-game ganks, and he actually scales really well late-game. People don't realize that. But from what we've seen in the Aris this tournament, Ari has been winning the lane pretty damn hard. And against a kind of weak laner with TF, I don't see necessarily what TF is going to be able to do against an Ari. He's going to have to be throwing his cards occasionally, his pick a card, whether that be blue, red, or gold. And once his card is down for a bit, I feel like Ari's just going to pounce on top of him, and I don't really know what TF's going to be able to do after that point. Obviously, bottom lane Urgot has worked occasionally in the past, but we've never seen it actually do consistently well in any kind of tourney setup, so I definitely worry about that pick. They're definitely back to basics with their mid and top lane, being Lee Sin and Shyvana, so look for that to be hopefully successful, but at the same time, I really don't know what Shyvana's going to be able to do against a Gangplank who's just parlaying her every step of the way. They need to win bottom lane. At least M5 needs to win bottom lane really, really hard in order to get through this game. But at the same time, with the jungle Rammus, I feel like even COG has a slight early game advantage. So it's going to be M5's really going to have to step it up play-wise this game, because I feel like, yeah, like you said, COG does look to have the superior picks.
Yeah, so apologies to anyone that did get hit by multiple ads or no ads. It's Owned is definitely having a special moment to itself. So judging by Reddit, a couple of people had like 8 to 10 ads, some had none at all. So it's all gone a bit Pete Tong in the advert stakes. But yeah, apologies for that. We don't know what's going on with Owned. So Anyway, let's have a quick rundown. As you can see, it is going to be in the top lane as they load in there. It will be Darian on Shyvana, which he's pretty much played throughout. Okay, we've had a pause, so that's fine. We can carry on. It is going to be against Wicked on Gangplank, so we're going to get to see the Shyvana v Gangplank lane, see how that one plays out, whether Gangplank can really shut him down, whether he can stop Shyvana from going into that red, which is obviously what he did against Team Solar Mid. He was in that red buff area, taking away the golems every 5 seconds. Got to see how that one works out with Shyvana this side. Of course, really it's been working out in the favour of CLG. They were ready for the counters this time. And down the bottom lane it is going to be Genja and Gozu Pepper. And that's going to be on Urgot Sona combo, which is less than normal. But obviously Urgot's going to be looking to bully early on. That's going to be against Kog'Maw and Janna. So interesting to see how that one works out. I feel Urgot's going to have to win that lane very, very strongly. And in the middle, it is going to be Twisted Fate versus Ari. I'm expecting to see Froggen going very, very aggressive on Alex here from the very early levels on. And of course, the junglers, it will be Diamonds and Snoopay. That's going to be on Lee Sin for Moscow 5 and Snoopay on Rammus. So expect to see him really trying to help out, get those early ganks. And actually, we're having lags. Apparently, Froggen's lagging, so that's just why we've had another delay, another pause. But I just don't know.
Just a little bit more leg.
I think CLG might take this one 2-0. I'd be disappointed if they did for Moscow 5's point of view, but really I think that's how it is. And okay, he's got actual lag. His TeamSpeak's lagging. It's not the tournament.
Okay, well, yeah, and if CLG actually does manage to take this set 2-0, they will have swept the entire tournament, which would be incredibly impressive for really their first event as a team.
Just waiting for the teams to sort themselves out, as I suddenly realise it wasn't recording, so that's all good. Nothing being missed off there.
Nice to catch before anything substantial happens. If we look at the at least mini-map now, since that's pretty much all we can do while we're paused, neither of these teams are really looking for much early aggression. For teams looking to say, how do you play defensive in these games, it's essentially like this. They're spread out across all of the jungle entrances to just basically see anyone coming in advance and just be able to back away and know where they entered. And that's really what every team did. It'll be interesting to see where this Lee Sin ends up starting, because I expect Snoopay to start at blue.
We've got a very early ward down as well in the river, which Darian was just stood on from CLG, so they've warded up that river spot, so they're looking for the Wraith invade very early on. They're pinging actually towards Darian's golems actually, so Wraith, sorry. So I'm going to see whether Snoopay is not going to go there. He's going to stick with the wolf, so wisely so. So I think everyone is just going to back in towards their normal spots. And I think
looks like, and that ward by CLG is not the exact mirrored spot of the ward that they placed last game, which I kind of expected, but instead it's a little more forward facing. It's still going to serve its purpose though, because if Darian wants to enter CLG's large jungle, which is the jungle which has 3 camps rather than jungle has 2, he will get seen by that ward pretty much, because very few junglers will invade through the top triangle bush. Most of them, if not all of them, will invade through that path if they do choose
very
to invade.
aggressive player from CLG. They immediately went straight in. They're going to try and steal them right away. I didn't actually see whether all of the gold went towards Diamonds. I think it did. Yeah, nothing at all experience-wise has gone towards Yellow Pete, but they tried that very early, and strategically Froggen was immediately on Alex's back as soon as he tried to go in for that. Meanwhile, down the red buff is going to get helped out by Gozu Pepper, so Diamonds will be taking that one. So look to him to maybe invade early. Meanwhile, Crepo is helping out Snoopay on the blue buff early on.
Yep, so a little bit of a failed invade or failed harass by CLG there. It was a nice thought, maybe trying to get Diamondez a little bit down after Wraiths, but, you know, quick little fail, really no harm done. They still made it to lane pretty much on time. Jan was still able to go pull for CLG, so really no harm done on either side with that quick invade.
So let's keep on our...
and wow, I wasn't watching top, but Darian is a little chunked. I have a feeling Wicked may have gotten a little 4% there from the crits.
Yeah, so see how they go down the top and bottom. Actually, I'm going to keep my eye on these. They're going to be very quick within the gangs happen, I feel, between these at the moment. We're seeing Lee Sin
bottom
going
lane is already playing absurdly aggressive.
Yeah, I'm just keeping my eye on Lee Sin up the top there as well. He is double buffed up, and he's about to go straight in onto Wicked. Wicked may have overstretched himself, has flashed away already. He will get away from that one, but immediately that is Summoner Spell used up. So look back down the bottom, you can see again, Yellow Pete is having to keep Genja well at bay here. Popping that slow across. Gosu Pepper actually trying his best to fend off and get that lane. And again, the early ward immediately down that bottom there. Pink ward going down in the bottom as well. And you can see also that Lee Sin is positioned to go back up top there. But yeah, pink ward placed in the bushes there, which is what forced Crepo out of that jungle. Or bush, so they say, not the jungle.
And Snoopy, knowing that they have that ward, kind of knows that Lee Sin is either still top or went back to base. So he's potentially going to gank Alex with no field counter. But there's 2 ganks going on at once.
Okay, they're ganking in towards mid, and it looks like the mid one may be more successful straight away. Alex has got to use Cleanse, and flash away. Ignite's going to go down. He will go down. First blood, but the stun card actually going on towards Snoopy there. Wicked also went down the river there, realized his situation, figured that Lee Sin was behind him, and actually just went straight down river to escape it. Very clever play.
Really clever juke. Yeah, that's definitely something that experienced players are substantially better than new players. When you get ganked necessarily, the best point of escape isn't always necessarily intuitive. Most people like to go straight back to their tower, but as you saw from Wicked there, the best point of escape was through the river in that situation. So he's very creative with the way he runs away from ganks.
And immediately, like you say, Darien is in trouble at the moment. Forced on that tower and very low on health, which is, and Ramos, of course, just getting that kill now, has got the double buff. And that's immediately, the gold went to Ari, so Ari's been back, got that double Dorans. That's going to cause all sorts of problems for Twisted Fate mid.
Yeah, and also even top lane, Darien started Cloth 5, so 66 armor, and he's already burned through all 5 health potions, whereas Wicked was able to start Boots 3 pot and won all the damage trades. He's used 2 fewer health pots and is winning the lane.
Yeah, and winning it quite substantially. You can see Darien very low and really...
He's winning on health, but I should correct that. He's down 9 on CS, so I think that has something to do with Lee Sin ganks a little bit, but still, really impressive play from Wicked.
Back down the bottom as well, you can see Yellow Pete being hard pushing this lane to try and force it up there. I can just keep my eye on Lee Sin at the moment. I can see he's going back up towards the top, so don't worry about that. Let's keep our eye on this bottom. In fact, let's go up towards the top there. Now they realise Darien going straight in there. He's actually exhausted. Will get the kill though. Oh no! The tick from Wicked just about finishing off on Gangplank there. So it was a 1-for-1 exchange, but obviously really Wicked coming out on top because it was a double gank. Meanwhile, down the bottom, you can see Gosu Pepper taking now very low once again. Yellow Pete being very, very aggressive against Urgot here. Looking back towards the top, you can see Snoopy as well having to cover off diamonds. I think you may have gone blank for a moment there, so I'm going to continue on. But down the bottom here, you can see Yellow Pete really is very aggressive against an early Urgot here. Just not taking anything from him. And Urgot did go with that Doran's Blade to begin with. Yellow Pete is backing off now, but I think he's going to get caught out by Genja. Yes, he will interrupt it. Will that just be a bait? I'm not too sure. He's going to try and get the lock on towards Crepo there. Crepo turning around, putting a lot of damage on towards Gosu Pepper. Gosu Pepper having to back away. And that will force CLG to go back on that bottom lane, I believe.
But until M5 is able to force some kind of kill or substantial threat bottom lane, Kog'Maw is at 35 CS, Urgot's at 38. Their aggressive Urgot pick has really not netted them anything thus far. The Kog'Maw is going to turn into a much bigger force late game, and they need to make something happen. I think we're going to see some attempts at that when, you know, Sona gets 6, Urgot gets 6, and TF gets 6, because that's just a ton of stuns and swaps and bad things for Kog'Maw Janna bottom. But even then, it'll be interesting to see because CLG are wizards at escaping.
Mid lane, they're going straight in. Alex is going to go down, and Diamonds really couldn't get in to help him, and I don't think he's got enough to take down Froggen here. He will try and lay a bit of damage, but Snoopy is coming in. He might well just bait him straight into it. Now Snoopy's going to sort of surely catch him with a stun. Will do. Taunt goes down. Froggen's have to back away. Still might be enough to take down Diamonds here. Snoopy has got that red buff ticking away. Diamonds desperately trying to escape this one. Think it might be enough, but Froggen is going to try and cut him off at the tower. Will go straight in for him, and it will be the kill for CLG. And they are performing perfectly today. 4-1 in kills, and wow, up the top now, Wicked is in all sorts of trouble. He's had to use his ulti to escape from Darien there. And Darien trying to keep that burst on him, but that is ulti used by Wicked now, so expect to see possibly Lee Sin maybe returning to top lane in a sec.
Yeah, and that was just, I mean, obviously Alex was set back.
Oh, down the bottom, Gosu Pepper in all sorts of trouble. That's a flash from Yellow Pete. Well, Snoopy was coming down, but it doesn't matter. And immediately that is a kill on the support bottom lane. 5-1, CLG looking strong.
They really are, and even before that gank bottom, I just wanted to go back to the mid lane. every time Ari's ultimate is up, I don't really know what TF's going to be able to do to survive, because he has kind of no self-protection. He doesn't have a huge amount of burst damage to counter Ari just jumping on him. He's essentially just has to turtle his tower and try to gank the other lanes, because I think anytime he gets near Froggen on Ari, he's going to be in danger of dying.
So Darian at the moment is going invading. He went looking for the red, wasn't there. He's going to take the big Wraith away instead. In fact, he's going to clear the whole pack out and go back towards that top lane. So Darian is going to try and keep farming as much as he can, which looks like it's the way it's going to turn out. He is ahead in CS, but only ever so slightly. 10 CS, but I think Wicked is going to back off, and I think he's realised. He's like, he's not in lane. I think he's gone into my jungle. So Wicked's going to see them golems up, and I think Darian is just going to return to lane because he went straight past that ward and he knows exactly the position. Meanwhile, blue is being given across to Alex in the mid there, where it will be eventually. Red buff is not quite up yet. Snoopy was just checking it out, and Darian has returned to lane, so they're keeping them on the toes. Meanwhile, this bottom lane, the CS between the two is bang on even. We've got Cogmore with 1-0, and this is just spelling more danger for Moscow 5.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm waiting still for this level 7 TF. You know, now that Cogmaw is level 6 and Sona's about to hit level 6, I'm waiting for when they're going to turn aggressive or really show us why they decided to pick Urgot in this game, because thus far it doesn't seem like they're able to capitalize on any of the things that you would pick Urgot for.
You can see the pink ward placed by CLG down the bottom there in the bushes, so they're clearing that out, which immediately Diamonds has had to go in and sneak that ward in that corner of the pit to try to cover him off. And like you say, Alex I'm just not sure how he's going to deal with Froggen. I wasn't sure even when the picks came out, and
here he comes on him right again. Had to flash away
in.
immediately, as you can see. Froggen just bullying him out of this lane.
And he can't seem to, obviously he's going to get that massive burst damage, and you can see Alex already had to back away. He's going to lose out on the CS again. Meanwhile, the lock on down the bottom there, trying to get aggressive on Yellow Pete, really doesn't have the damage just yet. Now we've got Rama spinning down here, so see if he's going to be able to power ball into anyone and catch them out. So far it has been working. We've got Shyvana again on the invade, so we'll keep our eye on that one. And actually Wicked's, you know, he is taking the golems away and basically preventing Shyvana from taking it. The red buff is on Snoopy, so they're going to realise that Snoopy's already took that red, and Darian returns back to top. Keep my eye on Snoopy. Snoopy's going to try and ninja his way in. Here he goes, Powerball coming down. There is a ward there, so they're going to see him straight away.
Those brute force ganks that I'm talking about from...
Oh, and they've got a beautiful Howling Gale straight across Gosu Pepper there. Had to use his ulti, and that's blown him back with the Janna ulti. That will be the kill. Now Genja really kind of has to back away from this one. But that was a very well executed kill. But you can see Moscow 5 trying to pull that dragon out. They can't do it. They cannot do it. They've just lost out on that kill down the bottom, and that's immediately going to give the dragon, I think, straight back to CLG. And they are just going to continue to extend their dominance.
And that was just a great example of why Rammus is ganked so often in these games. If you look at bottom lane, since I don't think... Oh, maybe some action. Okay, no action. If you look at that forward placed ward at the front of the upmost bush, and they weren't even up to that point. They were maybe just a little bit past half in the lane. Rammus came straight through that ward, but he is just so fast with that Powerball that he just brute forced his way through that ward and still pulled off a successful gank. So no matter how you prepare for Rammus ganks, he can still pull off successful ganks through the lane, which is why he is so feared in these top competitive matches.
And also the big credit to Crepo's Howling Gale actually caught Gosu Pepper, which made him...
And Alex, getting crushed again, has to burn Cleanse.
Oh, the ulti goes down. That will be another kill for Frog, and with the assist, of course, on Wicked as well. Actually taken very low, but we'll get out of that one, no problem. Darian is continuing to try to invade, but there's nothing to invade because Wicked is taking away the top golems. Snoopy has been very clever with his red buff and taking away those wraiths from him. And again, Darian doing his best to try.
Gosu Pepper in big trouble bottom. Oof.
And taken very low as well. 120 hit points just after a heal as well. And now the pings immediately. They have Moscow 5 well under control here, CLG. And you can see at the top again, Darian trying to be very aggressive on Wicked. Can kind of stand and bang with him quite easily. But now we've got Snoopy spinning up the jungle. There we go. Ping goes down. They know he's coming, but he's going to catch them out because he's going to get the stun on there. And he's had to use the ulti perfectly timed there the second the stun was about to land.
Yeah, but even then, once again, that was another brute force Rammus gank through a ward, and it forced Darian to use his ultimate. So Snoopy with that Oracle is clearing out the ward, doing a great job forcing pressure on every lane really at once. Successful ganks bottom, he killed TF early, forced Darian to use his ult. And yeah, COG is just really, really dominating this game. And at this point, I don't know what M5 can necessarily do, because we said before the game that they need to win early to have a chance in this game, and they've given up the dragon, they're down 7-1, and are getting bullied in essentially every lane but top.
Yeah, and Alex really is getting dominated in the middle here by Froggen. Froggen has no worries at all. He's happy to stand with him on that tower, just drawing a one hit, and he just continues to harass him, and Alex really has no answer for him so far. 0-3, he's not been able to go to any of the lanes to help in any of these ganks. He's now up to, what, level 10? And he's had to back away already. And
yeah, and Froggen is putting so much pressure mid lane that Alex hasn't even used his ultimate yet, because he can't leave his lane for a second because the tower would go down because of the amount of pressure Froggen is putting on him with Ahri.
Well, Wicked continue to try to do anything against Darian, but he is struggling to stand in lane with him. So Darian is kind of winning out that lane, but the fact is, Urgot is never going to be as strong as Cogmore when we start moving into mid-game, which we are almost at.
And there was a point in this game, as you can see, where Urgot did have a higher threat and did manage to avoid.
It's going to be a tower dive up top. They have actually interrupted Wicked's teleport there. You can see Diamond's ready and waiting to go. They just purposely interrupted him. Now Wicked is going to realize it. Does have his ulti. Will try his best to get out of this one. Has flash. Trying to bait them around the tower as much as possible. Had got the exhaust on Darian. Will the tower be enough to finish him off? No, it will not. Then nobody else is going to be able to close in. Meanwhile, you can see Snoopy actually on the invade. Has got that early oracles again.
And I'm a little curious. I don't see this gank working out at all. I feel like Snoopy's going to have to back away from this one.
I wasn't sure, but it has got Ahri now actually coming down through the jungle, so Twisted Fate's going to have to join this fight, or they're going to lose it out. And you can see Moscow 5 giving up on that tower already. They realise that something is up here, and he tries to lay a bit of damage onto Froggen there. But yeah, they're going to have to back straight away. That may well give the first tower to CLG. Yellow Pete actually doesn't want to hammer down that tower. He's more interested in picking up all the CS. Doesn't need to worry about it. Now Ahri is actually coming up behind Alex, so Alex is backing straight away. They are very worried about Froggen on Ahri right now.
Absolutely, and you even saw there that he was just able to run through TF's lane, essentially, through M5's jungle, and TF just had to stay away because he knew if he were to ever get close to Ahri in the jungle that he would die. And it's really the same lane. He's going to lose his tower here soon. TF still hasn't been able to use his ultimate, and bottom lane has already lost. So this is more bad things happening to M5 right now.
The only saving grace from them at the moment is Darian. He's starting to be pretty brutal on Wicked to keep him out of that lane. Meanwhile, Wicked's going, okay, fine, I'll take the golems, it's all good. But the problem is that Alex is having so little success in this mid lane. It's actually pulled Diamond straight towards mid lane a number of times already. He's had to come and just help out, basically. Every time Alex has had to go back, here we go, he's going to lose the tower now. Unless Froggen does delay. No, he will take it down. So that's 2 towers already down. Darian, in the meanwhile, is trying his best to push. And he's going to go looking for those golems. And they are just not there because Wicked is backing away. Snoopy's clearing it out. And they have pretty good ward control. I think we may see... No, we won't because Ahri's pulled it away. And Darian, again, he's got nothing to steal. Every time he's gone into that jungle to try and steal it away, it's already been taken.
Yeah, Wicked... I mean, it's just, once again, COG being very prepared for how M5 plays. They're making sure to keep their race and their double golems kind of cleared by, backing out of lane and keeping them dry so that Darian cannot gain his advantage by killing those things. And we see pings going down on Dragon. They have timers on this. It's probably coming up very soon. This could potentially be where COG just shuts the door on M5 here. They are substantially far ahead, and if M5 can test this Dragon, unless they pull off something amazing, I'm expecting COG to kind of wipe the floor in this team fight.
Yeah, they need to group up as well, but they just don't have... It has to be the perfect crescendo followed by the perfect damage straight across them, and I just don't think it's going to be enough. Ahri's going to be bursting straight through. Let's see how it happens, because Dragon has been pulled out of the pit, and at the moment, Moscow 5 are in position, but I think COG and Yellow Pete's he's just going to keep his distance. He's going to see if he can poke them down, which is what happened in the first match as well. It was just poke them down from distance. They were quite happy to do that. You can see the wildcards going through, but Yellow Pete responds in kind with his barrage. And they're just going to try to pull it out. Actually, here we go. They are going to keep continuing damaging it, which means CLG will respond. And that's a Howling Gale straight across entire Moscow 5. And wow, Sona just pops instantly. Froggen is going to be able to escape that in amongst it all. Very low hit points. And wow, Moscow 5 trying their best to hit anyone. Yellow Pete will go down, but I think he's going to land on that. Alex X taken out of the fight. Froggen is also very low, continuing to stay in there. Moscow 5, I think, actually came out on top of this. You can see the Twisted Fate ulti trying to keep the vision. Does take down Crepo. Froggen, I'm following at the moment, will get away from this one. And Moscow 5, well, I don't think they're going to have enough. And who got the dragon in amongst all that? That's the big question. I think it was Moscow 5 that came out.
It was
with
Moscow 5, otherwise the gold advantage would be substantially different. And
that's
wow is all I really have to say. There was a little too much that went on in that fight for me to be able to actually put my finger on why M5 won that. Because I was getting ready to go into the speech about how M5 was being impatient. They were the ones who pulled the dragon. They were the ones who essentially forced COG to engage on them, which are all plays you do when you feel that you're stronger. And apparently they were, because they won that team fight substantially. It was 3-2 or 3-1? I don't even...
3-1, I think it was.
Right, and a little bit of lag in spectator mode. I hope that's not me.
I think it's you. I'm fine. It's all good. But,
okay.
But the big thing is that Twisted Fate came out well in that. He had 2,400 gold. That's effectively nearly got him in the needlessly Rabadon's death cap, sorry, already, which means he might be able to start roaming ganking here. Now, Ari got away with nothing. He went very low right at the start, though, which I think is what turned it for Moscow 5, because essentially he was out of the fight straight away at the start. And that Howling Gale from Crepo landed straight across them, bounced 3 or 4 of them up in the air, and they were ready and waiting, but the Crescendo instant reply, I think it caught straight across the whole CLG team, which obviously immediately gave the delay. I think Yellow Pete pretty much got targeted well out of the fight there. The difference is that Moscow 5 are going to be able to wipe these lanes out very quickly. Twisted Fate's going to whip that card, that wild card, straight up the lane. And obviously, as soon as Urgot gets in there, they're going to be able to defend the turrets and poke if they need to. But 5-8, it has turned the game back in his favour. But I think Darian is going to be in all sorts of trouble. I can see there's a spinning Rammers piling up the river. Here we go. He's going to dive straight onto him. Darian in all sorts of trouble now. He has got a tower to get to, but I don't think he's going to be able to escape it. You can see Rammers ulti, Darian ulti, and there's Crepo just to say, really, you're not going to escape this one. Howling Gale goes across, bounces him backwards. He's going all sorts of ways, but actually he took 3 of them down pretty low.
Yeah, that's one thing that's incredible. When you're on Shyvana and you have your W on, once you turn into Dragon form, it leaves kind of a trail, which does about 100 damage a second. So it's even worse than chasing Singed, essentially, is chasing an ulted Shyvana with her W trail on. And yeah, that's why everyone on COG got so low. But still, you know, successful gank, and it doesn't matter if they're low because they're all live and there's no objectives up. So successful gank for them. So
indeed, worth it. But that does tell, maybe, when we get to some team fights, that could turn Moscow 5's way. And really, they're going to try not to focus him. They have to be very careful of that, because obviously Moscow 5 are going to be all over Yellow Pete. And one thing I do question is how much bruises they really have to protect that Cogball. They have Janna's ulti to bounce him back. They have Snoopy, who's going to dive on towards Genja down the bottom here. He's got Yellow Pete with him. Not too sure. He's got no tower at all. He's actually going to ulti his way into escaping. That was very clever play there onto Yellow Pete, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. The slow coming down. Now we've got Twisted Fate also joining in, actually doing a fair chunk of damage on Froggen this time. But Froggen instead is going to turn his attention onto Genja, and Genja will go down quickly there. And really, the roaming ganks have been working so well with Snoopy so far.
Okay, you know, I'm pretty much going to have to watch this stream off of your stream at this point because my spectator mode is permanently frozen, so I'll be a little bit behind you for the rest of the cast, but that shouldn't be a big deal.
Okay, that's no problem. So as long as you are still in there, it's good. So at the moment, Snoopy, again, has just played spectacularly. He's done it so well throughout the entire tournament. Every match we've seen, he has really helped out his bottom lane and his top lane. Actually kind of left the mid to its own devices. Darian's still in the top here. I'm still interested to see how they're going to pan out between them. Rabadon's death cap has been completed by Twisted Fate right now, so which means his power's going to be up. But Ari also got his Twisted Fate of his own, pretty much. He's had him in the pocket the whole game. So
yep, he definitely has. And the thing about that is somehow in team fights, if Ari can't keep herself safe with you know, the ult of Urgot, the ult of Sona, and the stun of TF, then it's really not going to matter how ahead she is. It's just right now, COG, they lost the one fight, but now as soon as they lost the fight, they went right back to completely picking away to M5. Mid tower and bot tower are both down. Rammus ganks are still flying out everywhere, and M5 is really still on their heels. It'll be interesting to see when the next Dragon fight comes up, whether that was a huge COG misplay in the fight, or whether M5 actually has some kind of advantage in these team fights that we just don't see.
Well, we do have a tankier AD, and I don't think Urgot's actually going to be the focus of attention for COG when they do finally get into it. I think Twisted
and he's
Fate will
going
be
big tank too, triple Dorans to Glacial Shroud, so he's actually going to try to finish that Frozen Heart fairly early, it looks like, and so Urgot is not doing that much damage in team fights. They're really relying on just the least
trouble. There's going to be Snoopay spinning straight in. He's going to flash away. Actually used his ulti to get across. Greppo's going to come across and try and keep him in position. Ulti's in backwards. Darian will try and get around this. You can see Howling Gale going to get set up immediately by Greppo here. And Greppo now finds himself in trouble. Will get taken down, so it's going to be a 1-for-1. I think Darian will eventually go down, but Snoopay's going to follow. And that actually backfired for CLG there. And Greppo was just trying to get in a perfect position to whip the Howling Gale across the tree, and instead found himself face to face with Darian in dragon form.
Yeah, really just kind of incredible mobility by Shyvana and Darian, and game sense of knowing where he needs to bring CLG so the rest of his team can capitalize on this kind of three-man gank, because he was 3 for nothing and a mile away from the rest of his team, and still managed to pull this off. And now we have a Dragon going down from COG. Even though they don't have the man advantage on the map, it'll be interesting to see if M5 can stop them in time.
And they are going straight into it. Is Moscow 5 going to push in there? Alex actually caught out quite heavily. Remember, there was an Oracle that went down as well, with Snoopay dying in amongst that, but I think he's earned it with the amount of ganks he's got. And that will be Moscow 5 picking up the Dragon, which is actually going to pull the gold fairly even. Just 1k difference now. And in terms of, wow, we've got a Guardian Angel on Genja down the bottom here. So really, he does not want to die in a team fight.
That is... Okay, so apparently, the only reason I can see he's going to build the Guardian Angel is his strategy in team fights is going to be to either ult the Kog'Maw or ult the Ahri. And he's going to be essentially putting himself in the middle of the enemy team. And this is kind of a tank Urgot, which is what people may have been expecting when he was first released and we saw the champion spotlight. But this is definitely not, by any means, a conventional build that I've ever seen on Urgot.
Maybe the Europeans, or should I say the Russians, do it differently. And as it is, CLG are kind of, well, they're kind of wondering how they've lost such a huge lead, I think. They're thinking, okay, we need to gather our thoughts, get ourselves back together, and looking like they're going to try and collapse in on Darian in the top lane here. There is a 3-man push, although Froggen is also looking to get around the back and go through Pepper. But Lee Sin will come up the top there. He's actually looking to possibly, he's thinking, should I go gank? Should I come around the back of him, or should I just try and support you? I think he's just waiting for them to actually dive in on this one, and CLG kind of realised it, yeah, and they're backing away from this one. And Genja, just keeping my eye on where he's going to go. Before all them fights actually happened, CLG were doing a fantastic job of clearing out all the wards. They don't have Oracle at the moment. They have caught a sight of Genja, and I think Froggen's going to just see how much burst he can actually do to Genja. It is not a great deal. It's enough.
They're going to be interested. They're just like...
Oh, and he's ulted him. He's going to get straight away from this one. And now immediately they're going to collapse in around him. Diamond's going to try to close in. And Gangplank ulti used to cover his escape there. So Moscow 5 are going to realise that's down. And they're probably going to try and drive home one of those objectives. Darian will take this top tower here.
I think one of the big things that happened there for Froggen, he just kind of got baited by Urgot's completely unconventional build. He's going, oh, here's this AD carry that I can go spike out because I'm this fed AD carry, AP carry assassin. And he just started using all his skills on him, and he was like, what's happening? Why is this guy not dying like he should? And it just allowed M5 to push up and, you know, really make that a bad engage for CLG. Even though no one died, CLG definitely lost more skills. They had to use 2 ultimates during that whole engage. And I believe the Genja ultimate comes back a little bit faster than the Gangplank ult, so it's a good trade for M5.
Cheeky steal away by Yellow Pete. Oh, Twisted Fate ulti used up here. He's going straight into towards Greppo, which might be a mistake. You can see that Snoopay was straight there. Immediately, Yellow Pete's going to lay down the law and try and do as much damage, but Moscow 5 are ready and prepared for this one. Diamonds was the target. Crescendo goes across. Snoopay has actually got caught out, but the Greppo's managed to land the ulti across. Froggen been picked out in amongst that. Now CLG are going to have to back away from this one. You can see that Darian just popping his ulti trying to get in there, but CLG desperately backing away behind that turret, and that is going to give CLG, Moscow 5, sorry, another advantage. They will take down this middle turret, and that is going to swing the gold into their favour for the first time in this game, and Moscow 5 winning out very well in that fight again.
And again, Froggen got caught by stuns. Essentially, Alex was just sitting on his
Baron
gold card, waited for Ari to start her dash, and then bam, they killed her immediately. And yeah, this is a Baron force. Extremely dangerous.
And a stun on towards Wicked there. That's going to be pulling Wicked straight towards the team fight. Unfortunately, he is the highest hit point man in the team, but he's going to get ripped apart by Moscow 5. Baited him in there beautifully. I don't think they're going to have enough. They're going to try and bait it again on Baron, but with Yellow Pete, they're actually saying that Yellow Pete doesn't have much mana, so he might not have enough.
Yeah. And the one thing is Snoopy does have Flash. I'm not sure if he's going to try to flash in for a steal because they have complete vision of this Baron. It's just M5 is going to get this unless Snoopy
they've dived on towards Snoopy. Diamonds has actually gone zipping in towards him, ripped half of his hit points instantly across. Snoopy goes in, doesn't manage to get it, and that is going to be a dead Rammus right in amongst her. And Moscow 5 now with a 5-man full buffed up team are going to back away from this one, and now their gold is really starting to drive in their advantage. Oh, Gosu Pepper desperately was pulling away in the pit. Froggen saw an easy kill there and had to back away from that one. So Moscow 5, and again driving home the advantage. Darien immediately continuing to push on and take out the jungle.
It's really funny. We're saying they're driving home the advantage, but this whole early game we're saying that they were hopelessly far behind. But you know, they've been really clever in the way that they're engaging these team fights. They're managing to catch Froggen in maybe a couple mistakes. We saw the Dragon fight where they first came back in the game. You said he got caught in some stuns and wasn't a factor. He over-engaged on the Urgot. It's just, I'm blown away right now at how M5 is coming back into this game because I really did not expect it at all.
And it's come just from one simple, crazy Dragon fight, and it just shows how much importance is on that very first Team Dragon fight, because games can be turned very quickly, even with a very strong lane advantage, which CLG definitely had. There's no doubt about it. They were way up in gold, way up in the lanes. They pretty much had the mid and bottom lane in hand, and it's just turned out pretty crazily. Honestly, we didn't see any early ultis from Alex. He didn't go ganking. He had to just stay and farm in lane. He's now up to 18, has 526 AP compared to Ari, who actually is 427 AP. So Ari has actually kind of fell behind a little bit onto Twisted Fate, which is a complete turnaround of how it was going in lane.
Yeah, and while we did mention early game that TF had a very weak early, I did mention that TF has a very strong late game. Just the sheer amount of damage and spammability of his stuns and his cards, his 3 cards flying through the air, is really quite large, and they're going to pick up another free dragon here, and COD is actually going to be trading for some bot towers, so we're going to see some split push action here.
This could well be a base race. We can see that Moscow 5 going down towards the bottom turret, and CLG, well, they are pushing the top turret. They do have Ari with them, and now they've realized, yeah, they've had to gangplank ulti it up, and I think that Moscow 5 actually going to tank this turret down, continue pushing on. They have a creep wave coming straight up behind them. It isn't a siege tank, but they're going to continue pushing it. Now that CLG have 5-manned it back, they're going to try and look for a gank here. You can see Rammus was spinning in. Moscow 5 going to drive home that advantage. Remember, they have got that Baron buff on. There's absolutely no reason.
How powerful they think they are now, whether they're thinking of diving or just backing off and pushing, and they're just going to back off.
They're going to actually back across because Genja was taking down the mid turret, so that's going to be a second in the turret down now. Moscow 5 really are turning it on. 6k gold difference, and will they manage to pick anyone off? That's the question. Can Rammus pop out, drag someone into that tower like we've seen so many times, or will Genja actually manage to catch someone in that? Oh, Genja got now with that Brutalizer and Ninja Tabi in there, and of course don't forget, they just who would you target? It's got to be Alex Itch surely right now.
Yeah, there's really they've done a good job. I mean, that Urgot build is so strange, but it's working for them. You can't necessarily target Shyvana. You really want to target Alex, but he can stay really far in the back in these fights. All he has to do is hold his gold cards for whenever Froggen tries to jump in, and they'll have enough burst to kill him. So Alex is going to just be standing in the back, spamming wild cards at the rest of the team, and, you know, so strange what's happening in this game. I don't know what to say.
Well, it is very good. It is very close. 11-10 in kills, 5-3 in towers. We are 33 minutes into this one. Let's not count CLG out, because let's not forget, one failed attack on a tower from Moscow 5, which seemed to be the aggressor at the moment, could easily turn in their favour. That Baron buff is going to run out. Actually, he's got quite a while on that timer, I believe there. It's just run out, in fact. I'm completely lying. So it has run out. Catching me off guard looking at the wrong buff, which is always pleasant. But Alex is continuing to farm. He's going to port back. Actually, he's got 2,000 gold in him. Urgot's got 2,800 gold on him right now. He needs to go back and spend some of that, buy up some big fat items, but instead he's going to continue pushing on. They want this next inner turret, the final inner turret. And will they catch it out? No, they've realised that they're going to get caught out of position. A good slow from Genja there.
They need to run here, and CLG needs to pounce on them, actually. We'll see what happens.
And they are going to go towards Genja. Remember, he has got that Guardian Angel. They want to kind of burn it up there. Crescendo having to be used to be defensive, but Darian's immediately popped across with that ulti burning across the whole team of CLG, and that could well be in their favour. Oh, heal used there, so Genja actually kept alive. Still hasn't gone down. They're focusing so hard on him. Alex Six now in all sorts of trouble because Wicked and Snoopy having to double team on him. Ghosts had to let him go. He will be dying. Meanwhile, Froggen has died back up the top there. Finally, they managed to collapse and get Twisted Fate, but to the detriment of their entire team. Genja flashing through. Thought he could catch someone out in the mid there, but hadn't realised that actually escaped wildly towards the blue buff there. So technically a flash kind of used up, but that is a 4-man Moscow 5 going to troop straight up that mid there. And so much focus on Genja there. Guardian Angel did get popped.
When CLG watches this replay, they're going to facepalm and kick themselves because they're focusing the tank Urgot. Like, why? He's not doing anything. He's just this tank, especially after he ults, because Urgot's ultimate gives him 150 of both resists, which is how you saw him sitting at about 1 or 200 health for what seemed to be forever, as everyone on CLG was just dying because they're trying to kill this Urgot who has a brutalizer as his only damage item. It's big mistake.
Shirelia's Reverie popped to help the escape, and Moscow 5 are going to back away from this one. Like I said, he's now got 3,300 gold on him, so he's going to go back and buy something that will definitely help his damage out. Or maybe he's just going to go a bit more tanky, who knows. The way they keep focusing him, it's entirely possible. Meanwhile, Darian's just waiting for that blue buff to pop. But let's not forget, they kind of walked straight across, kept themselves in a perfect line for Darian to say, okay, I'm going to ulti over all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though we're saying there's all these weird things like TF scaling in the late game and, Okogma's so dangerous.
He's going to get caught out. Genja actually, CLG may well manage to drive home a little bit of an advantage here. Genja has gone down. Darian's going to dash away. Meanwhile, Twisted Fate has come in support. I think Diamonds is effectively the sacrificial lamb in amongst all this with that blue buff. Will they be able to help him out? He's trying to dash across. Yeah, they've said yeah.
And they've decided to just leave him. Yep.
And they almost certainly, but that was a quick catch out. That's what CLG have got to do to try and get into this one. They have, well, it's a 6k gold advantage, but they have got this bottom lane pushing on. It might be enough to be able to get down and get an inner turret down here.
They could even potentially push almost all the way to the inhibitor. Those are really long death timers at this point in the game on Urgot and Lee Sin. And Rammus can actually, because he's Rammus, take on the tower even before the creeps get there. So they're going to make a really powerful push here, especially with Alex going top to clear these creeps and Sona going top to avoid Ahri. They could even lose an inhibitor off of this, which would be a quick, big turnaround for CLG.
Yeah, they've wisely backed away, so they will return, but that's going to be possibly the mid-inner turret going down now. That's where they're twisted towards it, and Moscow 5 are very slow to react, so they realise they're going to lose out on it. So again, they're trying to tank away it. Actually, they're going to back off. CLG are going to back off. They realise that Moscow 5 are pretty much up, and they probably can't push that advantage, and they tried. They thought about poking him just before he ported away there. But CLG making use of a really quick capture there and pushing it home, but Moscow 5 now going to turn it on its head and possibly go for Baron, while CLG have actually got 2 members already backed off here.
Right, I don't think they can necessarily kill Baron fast enough, but it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Okay, so they've got a 4-man here at the moment. Lee Sin now coming in. You can see Gosu Pepper with that Oracle is clearing out the ward. So there is a ward actually in the pit. So still CLG have full advantage. You can see Snoopy is actually above it. There we go. Twisted Fate ulti used. Diving straight on. Wicked is, I think, the target. No, Yellow Pete got himself caught in amongst that ulti. And the Janna ulti is not going to be enough to save him. Gosu Pepper actually getting the kill with a power chord in amongst it. Shyvana troopsing over everyone with that ulti. Meanwhile, the Baron is gone down. That's gone to Moscow 5 in amongst everything. now that's going to be another kill. Ari popped, and oh, a flash used by Gosu Pepper trying to close in on Wicked there. I think they're just sort of saying, let's actually just give up on it. No, they want the kill. Gosu Pepper might get in the way of all this, but he's quite happy to tank it up, and Wicked will go down. One member of CLG left. It is Crepo. I think we're going to be going to a third game here, and Jack, that was a pretty impressive comeback from Moscow 5.
It really was, and this whole time the comeback, I've been trying to wrap my brain around, like, how are they actually winning these team fights? Because they were down so far. We saying, okay, they have an Urgot, the other team has Kog'Maw, you know, immediate advantage to the Kog'Maw, we think, in these team fights. And I might have found out a little bit about how they're actually winning these team fights. I was actually watching Darien that entire fight, and right now he is an absolute monster on Shyvana. He was essentially, he was the one who killed everybody. He was jumping on top of them. All of his AoEs were going off on pretty much everyone, and CLG just does not have an answer for Darien, and I'm thinking that might have been almost what's happening in the majority of these fights. That ultimate on Shyvana and just how much health, the tankiness, and the damage all combined together is just really, really, really powerful, and I think that's what CLG is having such a hard time dealing with.
Indeed, and you can see just the damage that he can do right now. It is up to fully stacked. He's pretty much fully built up. And
that giant spell's probably going to be turning into a Warmogs at some point.
Right now, there it is. So straight into the Warmogs. So he's got Warmogs frozen, a double Warmogs on Darien.
Oh dear.
Double Warmogs, frozen mallet, and Atmas to go with that Wit's End. Get yourselves ready in solo queues for a double Warmogs incoming, because now Darien is really proving that he is a very strong Shyvana player, despite the fact that, you know, early game lanes were lost. There's no doubt in that, and CLG gonna, like you say, gonna look back at this and just kick themselves. They had such a great advantage that's kind of just backfired horribly. Trinity Force as well on Genja as well, so he's doing a lot of damage to go with that Brutalizer on top of the tankiness that he's now got, and really the gold advantage, everything really is built up. Double Quicksilver Sash on CLG, so it shows that they are so worried about getting caught out in the stuns, but I just don't think it's enough right now. Yeah,
and I almost have to apologize to the viewers with how much we were writing M5 off, saying, you know, oh, Urgot, like Kog'Maw, once he wins the lane, the game is over. Ari is completely crushing TF. Top lane is mid. Rammus is pulling off all these ganks, and it's turned completely on its head. And at this point, M5 has won. I mean, to the point where they're down 5k gold, now the point where they're up 11k gold. Many engages in a row, and let's see if they can just push this through and win, because they have a big lead now.
And they just have this one tower and inhibitor to drive through. They could effectively come around the side, but they're going to go straight in the front door. They've actually dived on towards Wicked. Wicked uses Gangplank ulti, but Crescendo's hit across the entire CLG team again there, so it is really landed very well. Janna's trying to do his best to actually force them away from him. Diamond will possibly go down in amongst this engage, although flashes straight away, uses his armor. That's going to be a cleanse from Frog, and desperately trying to escape it. Still nobody going down in amongst this. Genja's Guardian is still not being popped. Snoopy will finally go down, and Genja again was the focus of the attention. Alex will this time go down, but Alex had already built up a Guardians of his own. Now Yellow Peak goes down. Guardians Angels all say thank you very much. We have a 5-man, all back a game. GG, well played from CLG, and wow, what a turnaround. We are going to have a third and final match here in the Kings of Europe tournament, and what an incredible game from Moscow 5 to come back into that one.
Yeah, I'm really happy about the comeback and the fact that we're getting to see the third game, especially just in the manner of us maybe not even really understanding their team comps. Genja's build, you know, lucked out a little bit, in my opinion, that CLG was still so, you know, we have to kill this Urgot, he's doing nothing. But they still were focusing all their damage onto him. Meanwhile, Alex showing, putting on a clinic of how you can actually lose your lane in a devastating manner, but still have a huge impact on the rest of the game. Because in team fights, even though Ari was a complete and total counter to him in lane, he was a complete and total counter to Ari in team fights. Because as soon as Ari wanted to get in any kind of proximity to anyone with her ultimate and her W, TF had that gold card ready and waiting and would essentially just chunk her down immediately. So he essentially turned this really fed ahead Ari in team fights into this thing who could only spam charms and orbs into the fight, because if he were to engage at all, he'd get caught in stuns and killed. And, you know, aside from that, they did a really good job of staying grouped, or at least being able to run to their teammates very quickly. They weren't getting picked by Ramos, at least in mid to late game, and just, incredibly impressive play. And at this point, CLG's got to regroup a little bit, because I feel like 15 to 20 minutes into that game, they're like, all right, guys, we're the kings of Europe. Let's just finish this off now with this dragon fight. They lose 3-1, and then they just snowball it into lose the rest of the game.
So what an incredible game. We are going to have a third match, which I was fearful of. I got to be honest, at the start of that, I was fearful of when I saw them picks, but I am not one to question Moscow 5. So they take the second match, and 2 incredible games so far. CLG just looks like they had it in the bag, but plucked away from them by Moscow 5 from essentially one big, strong dragon fight. So let's go to a quick break. The teams will be pretty much ready to go, I feel. And another 41-minute match, important to note there as well. These long games continue, which is great for us and great for you, the viewers. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in just a few with the third and final match.
If you're muted or whatever, I'm going to restart my computer.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going into the third and final match, and well, Moscow 5 just came back colossally to take CLG and drive home any chance they had across the map. And what a fantastic match it was. CLG taking the first map, of course, and wow, what a game we have here. This is it. This is the final one. This is the best of three. Who will be the kings of Europe, CLG or Moscow 5? Both have proven their worth, and fantastic match, chat. I'm not. I still cannot call this one. I really cannot call who is going to take it, because they've both shown signs of brilliance. Froggen in the middle has looked unstoppable. Snoopy in the jungle has looked unstoppable. Moscow 5, they will not be put down, and Darian just comes back brilliantly. Alex, you beat him to hell and back in the lane, and yet he comes back and plays brilliantly.
Yeah, he really did. It's an example, I think, of teams that have a good mental state during the match, and M5 and CLG both generally have really great mental states during the match. We've seen both of these teams have players that lose the lane fairly horribly, but then still make great plays throughout the rest of the game, because obviously, they haven't been put down too much, and they're still able to keep themselves in the game. And I'm actually reading through, obviously Reddit actually exploded with comments after this, and I'm trying to read a couple of them. I see one that says, Game 2, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Twist ending right when you didn't expect it. And that's pretty much what happened in that game. It was crazy.
Sorry, I was just discussing who this ESL TV person was, because it's not Daniel Klein, apparently. Because Daniel said, for your information, I am not on Tournament Realm. So if you see someone that's trying to be me, it is not me. I'm just a random ESL dude.
Okay, cool.
Well, to be fair, that it's probably just... Yeah, it's probably one of the ESL guys. It's one of our TV accounts anyway, so I have no idea who these random people are. This is the problem now. I think we're going to have to get to the stage where that many people have got Tournament Client. We're going to have to start passwording it again. It's like getting like the public, there's that many people with it out there. So I honestly, I'm still unsure who's going to take this one. The picks and bans are going to be so vitally important in this one, and we've seen Moscow 5 pulling out something outrageous in the last game, frankly. How does CLG go about this one? How do they... Okay, we need to stick with what we go with. Do we take Shyvana out, because Shyvana seemed to be such an issue in the last game? Do we target anything else? Is there anything in there that would worry you? And especially saying Moscow 5, they took out Anivia, and then Froggen pulled out Ari and played brilliantly.
Yeah, it's just... The weird thing about this is, and as far as CLG's perspective goes too, I feel like they still believe they outpicked M5 in that game, and I'm sure internally in Vent, they're just talking about that first Dragon team fight that they lost, and then every small mistake with overganking after that, and they're not so much looking at team comps. But with that being said, I do feel like they probably have a free ban to throw around, and they're probably going to use that ban on Shyvana, just because everyone on CLG realizes that I think Crepo said here, 5k hit points is not nice. So they don't want to have to deal with the 5,000 health Shyvana, who's still doing enough damage to kill all of your squishies again. So I'm expecting probably a reactionary Shyvana ban after that game. And other than that, the Twisted Fate, the Urgot, the Jungle Lee Sin, while they were effective for M5, aren't really something that I expect CLG to target with bans.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for the match to get underway. Crepo says stop targeting our band strats. So maybe you just call it on the nose there, but these guys are still listening. How is it? Why are you guys still listening mid-game? You should be focused on what you're going to do yourself. Honestly, I mean... And guys, what are you watching at home? I know there's people in Team Liquid, there's people on Reddit, there's people on the official forums, they're everywhere. And don't forget to follow my Twitter, QVDman, and of course the YouTube channel, which I think you'll see if you go onto Reddit, you'll see I've posted pretty much all the videos from throughout this tournament. Every single video is on there now. It's also on their owned channel, which is their O Gaming TV International channel. Everything is on there. In fact, I saw TSM had put together a wonderful thing on their site, which has got the whole of Kings of Europe tournament with links to everything. So feel free to check them out if you've missed any of the matches, or even if you've missed the first two matches of this. They will be available on YouTube, they will be available on own channel, and of course Jat and me will be available to get abused on Reddit, probably after this game, or loved or abused, whichever you like to call it. We've kind of had both. We've both been through it. I think the best comment I ever saw after Kiev, and we do look through the comments, was on the official forums of North America that said, "That fat guy next to Joe is looking at him like it's a cheeseburger." I was actually in tears when I read that, of just laughing. You guys are quite inventive. But I mean, what have you made of this tournament, by the way? Because it has been pretty impressive. We've seen the fantastic semi-finals. There were so many close calls. Mistral were unlucky. They went actually 2-0, losing, and yet it could have easily been 2-0 their way.
Yeah, absolutely. This tournament is almost a great example of how dynamic a lot of these games can go, and especially that last game we watched. Even though the people that are watching the stream saw it, once the replay goes up, just if you're trying to make a team or want to make a point about how a game is never over or how you can turn games, use that game as an example, because that was a situation where us as the commentators were writing them off. I'm sure COG, even internally, were writing them off a little bit. Most of the people watching were saying, oh man, they screwed up in picks, they lost the early game, this is over, they should just give up. And they just turned it right around, just almost immediately. As soon as that dragon fight happened, the rest of the game was just so one-sided. And I think that just goes to show how we still don't know everything about this game. So even if you think you know what's going to happen, just keep trying, keep pushing through, and you could persevere into a victory. And that might have, it's definitely saved M5 and kept them alive in this tournament. And now, one final game, to decide who the kings of Europe are.
Yeah, and I'm just sorry.
Yeah, we're having a few issues with randoms in the.
Okay, whoever the admin is. Oh, of course it is. It's Gosu. Yeah, Gosu needs to do it, but Gosu's having issues. So. I was just assuming the top left corner was immediately the game creator. I didn't see Gosu had switched over, but he's just going to kick them out and clear them out. So if you have got the tournament client, guys, you're not being big and clever. You're actually delaying things. Well, Moscow 5 have got a few issues. They did have actually lag before that game started, so we weren't too sure what the issue was. I guess they're probably just trying to clean that up. Bearing in mind, I'm interested to see what time of day it is for these guys as well, because Alex hinted on it before and basically said, so Alex is GMT +2 where he is in Russia, and he said there's actually people on +5, so that makes it, already getting close to midnight for them guys. It's in fact, pretty much on the nose. I'd say it's nearly 1 AM for them already, which is pretty insane timing for those tournaments that go late into the night in the European time zones. They're like playing till AM time.
Yeah, and I think it was Genja actually is the farthest GMT plus, and he says there's on many occasions he's up until 6 or 7 in the morning just so they can get in team battles and scrims with certain teams. So very dedicated bunch, those M5.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget that you can watch all these guys. They all stream, so it's always good to follow them. They are actually all, I believe, all full-time gamers now, which in effect basically means they make their living off you watching their stream. And they, you can learn a lot of watching these guys' streams. Certainly, some of the top players, some of them will explain very well as well, and generally all fine. And of course, obviously, Riot have been doing these spotlights, and Snoopy had one pretty recently, and immediately he's like, suddenly there were so many people that are going, oh my god, Snoopy's actually really good at watching. He explains many things. It's like, well, he's been doing it for months. So if you'd watched him before, if you actually just go out and look at these guys, and if you think, okay, I want to play this position with this character, kind of look up who you think will likely play that position. Who's one of the best in the world at that? So say, I don't know, say if you wanted to be an Alistair jungler, you'd go say Snoopy. If you wanted to be a Nivea, go follow Froggen. If you wanted to learn some pretty crazy stuff, go see Alex. If you wanted to see how the hell to just dominate the jungle in such a weird and wonderful way, follow Diamonds. These guys will all be streaming. Diamonds actually won the Intel Extreme Masters. I carried Kiev, so he's got an incredible processor from that. I think it's like the top end Intel Extreme i7 processor. So he's going to be building the computer, so he'll be able to stream soon. I think Darian streams, Genja streams, Alex streams. I'm not too sure if Gosu Pepper streams actually at the moment. I guess he could probably tell us himself. I'm pretty sure all of CLG stream, and they have commentators as well for their streams, so you can watch them as well. So, what have you made of basically the gameplay, or even the runes, anything that's sort of caught your eye in just tonight? In fact, I mean, we've obviously looked at the rune pages before, which we could probably do now if you like, to go through see some of these crazy rune pages. In fact, let's invade on Snoopy, because Snoopy's played brilliant on Rammus and Alistair, and in fact he played Maokai earlier on. Let's see what he's doing now.
Jungler runes are often very, very standard. It looks like he just went move speed on Rammus with armor, magic resistant, armor 10. So that's I just clicked runes, and the first rune page that came up was the one he used last game. So unless he's been modifying them at all, this is what they were using on their previous characters. So it's the Lee Sin page that was on initially. His page 8 actually is the one he most likely used last game. And yeah, that's just pretty standard on Rammus. That's nothing exciting. I was actually curious about Alex's rune page on TF. Just it's probably just a standard caster page, and actually no, his page is called Solo Top Full Armor, but really that's just he used the AP Quints, but he was so scared, and rightly so, of Ahri's damage, he actually went with the flat MR Blues and still lost the lane horribly. But these guys have had enough of us buying their rune pages and have started Champ Select, so let's get into this.
And immediately I've got the wonderful tooltip bug. There we go, cleared it off. So here we go. Under the picks and bans, they pretty much came out quick fire over the last few times. So let's see if they go straight away with the immediate ones. And they do. Rise first ban again.
Yeah, well, so there's a couple things here. The Rammus, leaving that up last time for M5, they did get punished by it fairly frequently early game. Obviously, the Nibri ban is first. I'll be interested to see if they target ban the Alistair or the Rammus. And bam! Shyvana, as we expected. No more 5,000 health dragons flying around your team.
Indeed. So let's see what they're going to go with. So Shyvana really has been one of those that they've always said ban it, and again, Alistair taken out of it. So they're not happy with Snoopy. They don't want him to have that Alistair. But frankly, he's done well with Maokai and Rammus so far from coming out of that jungle and ganking early on.
I was a little disappointed with Snoopy's build on Rammus that game. He actually ended up rushing a Frozen Heart, which, while Frozen Heart is a really, really good item, you really want to be building max health early on Rammus because he gains so many resistances from his defensive ball curl that Snoopy was much squishier than he should have been that game because he did not build enough health in his itemization. And, Sivir going to CLG. And M5 banning Soraka when they could have banned Sivir. I question that a little bit personally.
Yeah, because they would have surely known that they wouldn't have taken Sona, because CLG have openly said we don't actually rate Sona that much.
Right, exactly. And Sivir and CLG has been first picking Sivir really all tournament and have been banning it to keep it away from the other teams. So M5 should probably have realized how much weight CLG put on them. But you know, it's M5, I was questioning them last game and was proved wrong, so maybe they have something figured out for Sivir this game that they're going to use against it.
So Lee Sin taken once again, and frankly Diamond has proved that he is a fantastic Lee Sin player, but he's just actually not been that lucky. He's not been able to land that many ganks early on. I immediately think back to that one that sort of backfired at top. He did blow flash on Gangplank, on Wicked. And it's interesting to see, obviously they've gone with the counters here. They realise that CLG are going to have to pick something and they can counter it straight away. It's the advantage you get on the right hand side. And actually people, even when they were doing the coin flip, were actually choosing the right hand side because they purely wanted a counter.
So who actually won the coin flip this time? Was it...
I don't know. I think it's Chips and Noi that are doing the coin flip. Oh, okay, Taric.
Right. And we saw this before, the Taric Sivir, just the damage potential early game, and even once they hit 6, the spike from that is going to make it very difficult for you to hold the camera and catch every kill or fight bottom because it happens so fast and it is so much quick damage.
Oh yeah, and of course you got the stun Boomerang Blade, which is what you're referring to there, but we have Kennen and Gangplank, so Well, we did see Gangplank originally, and this is the first time actually M5 have been allowed to have it. Remember, it was banned out, but it was one of the very first things that were banned out throughout Kiev. It was the Shyvana Gangplank, and Lee Sin was the one that came in after it. Everyone went, right, we've got to take Gangplank away from him because he was doing the invades, he was winning out the top lane, he took the blue at level 1, remember, so we've got to keep our eye out on that. I'm pretty sure CLG be well aware of that one. They'll ward it up and cover it as much as possible. And of course, Genja on Kennen has been superb.
He really has, and this is, I mean, we were saying it before, but this is definitely back to basics. I believe all 4 of these characters were on one of the team comps that M5 ran in Kiev, and I wouldn't be surprised if the 5th is as well. Like, they could actually have a mirror team comp to one of the ones they ran in Kiev easily, depending on what Alex decides to pick for his solo mid. And yeah, to add to that, early game is going to be very, very interesting because every time M5 picked Gangplank in Kiev, he was getting either a blue buff or a red buff from somewhere on the map really early. And I want to see how COG reacts to that, or whether M5 attempts to do it again.
Well, and as far, the CLG have been very, very good at countering all the jungle attempts they've tried. You know, every time they push for it, Cassiopeia maybe from Froggen here in the mid, and looking like a Riven up top as well for Wicked. Now Aurelia is available, so he's choosing. Obviously, he thinks Riven counters Gangplank a lot better, certainly to his playstyle. And we've seen some pretty interesting Riven builds throughout this tournament. People choosing different ways of building him. Remember, he did obviously have them changes to him just a couple of days ago with the last patch, and now he's going to be Cassiopeia locked in the mid. So what is Alex going to reply with? What will he take? We saw obviously some. Okay.
Oh. I was going to say Galio, but then I was also going to say if they pick Galio, their damage potential might be a little low. And Alex is a very, very good Karthus player, so this would be really exciting. M5 did the same thing in Kiev with the Skarner pick when there was a champion who had been losing all tournament, and they pick him in the last game of the finals and win with it. And they could potentially do the same thing here with Karthus, because he has been getting crushed all tournament, but never Alex's Karthus. It's always been these CLG and M5 beating the opponent's Karthus. So I hope he stays with this. I really want to see some good Karthus play. And there it is. Perfect.
And the important thing to note here for Moscow 5 is they haven't really got an AD they need to protect. So they've got no one they need to club round. In fact, if anything, everybody's going to be diving in because Alex is going to be getting straight in the middle of them all. Genja's going to be getting straight in the middle of them all. Lee Sin will be flying in there. And Sona will be looking to stun them all on the spot. So they've got a really nasty AE team right there. And nobody actually needs protecting. We're going to switch over to a quick blind pick here. So I guess somebody's had a moment. But yeah, I mean, actually, I really like those Moscow 5 picks.
They seem pretty clever. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly what happens to the Karthus because whether Alex... Because really, COG and M5 have both been crushing opponent Karthuses. They have... Oh, shoot, I'm blank. COG has a Maokai jungle, correct?
COG do, yes.
Yeah, so the Maokai jungle with the huge, huge, huge damage potential from Cassiopeia could spell tons and tons of danger for Alex. So his Karthus play, it'll be interesting to see how well he wards the approaches because he's essentially going to have to ward both sides if he wants to farm without getting tower dove and killed every time he pushes up past halfway in the lane. So he's going to have to play very careful with the immobility of Karthus essentially. And if he can get his farm up, man, this is going to be another really close game. I do actually like both teams' picks very much.
Yeah, just waiting for the randoms that join in. Wow, ESL, really?
TV2A.
Grow some clues and get out of here. Kick. Okay, all good. Odd? Good. I can't type. There we go. So yes, who do you think is going to win, ladies and gentlemen? Go post yourselves on whatever forums you're hitting up. Obviously, there's plenty of them that are out there. If you just Google Kings of Europe, you're pretty much going to find and stumble into a forum that's giving their opinion. I have my major thread on Reddit, so I will be able to catch up and read everything on there. But CLG versus Moscow 5, the final match of Kings of Europe. This is it. This is the decider. Who is the best team in Europe online right now? Kiev was the decider between Europe and America. Europe won out in that one. I'm going to take a victory for that, despite the fact that Dignitas and TSM took second and in third place. It was Moscow 5 that took first place. CLG feel they should have been there. A lot of people feel they should have been there, and the question is, if they were there, would they have won it? I'm not too sure, but I guess we're going to find out in a minute. We're going to have a 3-minute timer, Jat, so let's go down and run down these lanes, and maybe even we'll sneak a peek at some of the runes if we need to. But
yeah, absolutely. We could even do a little informative session for what people don't runes, and that's actually something I'm curious of. For the fans out there, they're always curious of what runes these people are using in tournaments, just because they can't check the tournament. So let's start up on the top left with Yellow Pete on Sivir. And this is going to be really easy because they're all actually in the game. So these are exactly the runes they're using. Yeah, so Yellow Pete on Sivir is using a 15 AD page, which we've seen tons of people use in the past. Very standard in that 15 AD flat resists. Most AD carries are doing that now because of the 10% mastery and the fact that it makes it easier to last hit. Froggen on Anivia. I'm thinking these will be fairly standard runes. This is a little bit of surprising. He has 175 health at 18 from his yellows, then AP flat quints, magic pen reds, scaling AP at 18 blues. So just a very, that's quite a standard AP page. So no surprises thus far. Just for those people curious how these rune pages, Wicked's runes are always a little different because he changes his runes very much depending on his matchup. And once again, he's got something very odd. He's got 8.1 health regen per 5. He actually has health regen quintessences. So this is something that Wicked's been doing for a really long time that not many other people agree with or have picked up on. But he usually runs health regen quints on a lot of his sustaining lanes. Aside from that, flat AD reds as well as 2 flat AD blues. I guess there's some breakpoint he wants to hit there to get to 9.1 physical damage, and that's his rune page. We need to speed up a little bit. We're not going to make it.
Yep.
Snoopé, 15% attack speed, flat AP quints, and this is the only thing you need to keep in mind on Maokai. All the jungle Maokais bring 15 flat AP because if you put 2 stacking saplings on the Wraith Camp at the start of the game and then spam another one on top of that, you will instantly clear it, and you can't do that without the 15 AP. So now we'll go to Crepo. He is running a support page full defense. I've seen a lot of people do this. 21 armor, 13 magic resist, and 78 health from quintessences. So he has no offensive runes in his entire page. Full defense on support. 55 seconds, speeding through. Gosu Pepper on Sona, 21 armor. So all these supports, full defense. Don't run aggressive reds on your supports if you want to be like the Euro tourney guys. Alex Ik on support, I'm expecting a standard AP page, and that is exactly what we get. 15 AP, flat magic resist blues, which is something that Scar suggested all Karthuses do because he's a little weak early in lane, and nothing can stop Kraus from farming. Lee Sin, we got 30 seconds left. AD quints, armor pen reds, armor yellows, MR at 18 blues. Very standard. Some Lee Sins like to go with 15 AD, others not so much. Darien up top lane. This is surprising. 32 armor and 15 armor pen. Complete trying to counter Riven. Went full all-out everything armor. 10 seconds left. Genja, we're going to make it. Genja on 80 cannon. 25% attack speed. 13 armor and 13 magic resist. So there we go.
Just about caught it at the end there. I don't think anyone would have caught it on the camera though. But so here we go. We are jumping into the third and final match. And wow, what a game. And really a couple of experienced players with top heroes. We have Alex with his Carters. We have Froggen on Cassiopeia. Expect to see a lot of invades with Snoopé and Diamonds. We see Darien on Gangplank, who was banned out very early on after he dominated in the group stage in Kiev with that Gangplank. Suddenly everyone went, whoa, we know how to beat Moscow 5. We're going to take Darien off Gangplank. Didn't work. Now he's got it back. We've got Genja on Kennen. Meanwhile, we've got Sivir on the opposition side and mixed it with Taric. So immediate burst damage down the bottom. This is going to be so hard to catch the kills. We're going to have to really be on our toes to keep our eye on these things. But here we go. We are underway, and anything that's going to catch your eye, where are you expecting these to go? And really, from a level 1 team fight, we have seen some very early engages, and actually I think they're pretty even for a level 1 fight.
Yeah, I don't necessarily... Well, actually, okay. Do definitely look for Gangplank to try to invade someone somewhat early. But I have a feeling if this was against a team that wasn't CLG, M5 would invade. But just because of how well CLG reacted to the invades in the first game, I think they've scared M5 off a little bit, and they're not going to do anything sneaky. But with that being said, they're 5 group looking to do something maybe.
Yeah, so Just keeping my eye on Tarek, actually.
Yellow Pete actually saw them coming through, so he has warned the rest of his team where M5 was, and immediately pings going down by CLG, they might be doing an invade of their own.
Yeah, so Wicked's immediately going straight into the opposition jungle, and he's thinking, right, we'll take the big Wraith, and yet immediately Froggen also coming across. This is what we saw TSM do, remember, when they got a full counter on in Game 2. Moscow 5, well, Diamonds is going to run straight headlong in towards Wicked here. He's coming across, not going for it though, but they know he's there. Now Alex is going to come across as well. I expect a lay waste on that bush, yes it will do, and that will clear out Wicked, so he's going to back away from that one. So mind games already playing into the hands of these, and what are you seeing straight away here?
Well, at the end of all the mind games, nothing really happened, safe play by each. But with all that being said, Darian has teleport, even though he may not be able to steal a buff. We're still going to be seeing a blue buff gang playing top lane. Bottom lane is going to essentially do Lee Sin's bottom jungle and also take his blue, because Lee Sin could care less about his blue buff at this point in the game. So this is going to be trouble for Wicked. Also in bottom lane, there's a bit of an arms race going on here between the aggression of the Kennen lane and the passivity of the Sivir lane. Sivir's actually started Cloth 5 because they know how aggressive M5 is going to be. M5 actually started, and I don't think he meant to do that. Kennen has blue buff.
No, that really backfired quite horribly. And he managed to put a last shuriken in. I think some choice Russian words are probably coming out right now.
Oh my. That is not what they wanted to happen. And this could really hurt Gangplank now. That's... I hate to see something like that in the game this big.
Well, you know, maybe Kennen's going to push that advantage and just use that cooldown advantage he's going to have on the shurikens and just harass Yellow Pete, which is what he's doing actually right now. So let's have a look back towards the top. We can see Wicked is just having to back off a little bit, but that's going to be a back and forth between these two. And it's actually quite an easy sustain lane between the two of them, but you can see that crit coming straight down on Wicked there, just caught a pretty lucky Q. Let's have a look. Alex is actually porting back. I don't know whether he's baiting or not. No, he is. He's backing off. So let's see what he's just picking up. So he's immediately gone back, which is very
Two early wards.
Okay.
Yep, just like we were saying, he needs to ward both sides. And he is not as patient as I thought he'd be. He wants the wards immediately because he knows how quickly Maokai and early into the game can gank. So he's just immediately going to ward up both sides of those lanes just so he feels a little bit of safety.
Snoopay immediately is actually heading into the bottom. He's going to try and ninja his way in towards those bottom brush. He realises he's not warded up already. The lane needs to push slightly. Oh, they've just put a ward in it. Literally put a ward in it. And he's took it down. Crepo's actually taken that ward down. Meanwhile, at the top there, I can see they're poking back and forward. But Crepo just about managing to get that ward down. Had to put a ward of his own down on top, though, to clear it out. And I think, well, it must have been a purple.
Yeah, it's got to be a vision ward. He has a vision ward in that bush, so they've removed M5's bush control, which is actually fairly substantial. And even though Darian doesn't have the blue buff top lane, he's doing quite a good job bullying Wicked early. I can only imagine.
And they've got the stun on Genja down the bottom there. They dive straight across. Boomerang Blade does go across, and they knocked him in the right direction. Had to use Flash already. Will it get away? He has that heal, but it's going to burn that summoner spell. And will it be enough? Back in towards the mid there. They're also diving on towards Froggen there. And as expected, these kills will be happening across the map very, very quickly. And you can see Darian actually bullying that top lane.
Yeah, and especially since he's seen the Maokai gank bottom now, he knows that he does not need to fear gank for, at least 30 seconds for the time it would take for Maokai to go back to base and then run all the way top. Maybe even something like 40 seconds. So after that gank shows bottom, he's basically saying, all right, Wicked, I'm going to continue bullying you because there's nothing you can do at this point. And yet, Alex actually getting around, placing a ward on one side. It'll be interesting to see when he can get around to the other. And, taking a bit of damage there from Cassiopeia's Q spam.
Yeah, he put that wall of pain down. I think he was expecting him to back off a little earlier than he did, and he continued on him, which kind of put him out of position. And like you say, Darian going to continue to farm. So despite the fact he's not had that blue early on, was a bit of a mistake. Genja did have that on. That's cleared off now. So we'll keep our eye on when that's going to respawn shortly. We do have Snoopay in the mid at the moment. See whether he's going to head towards Wraiths. Is he just going to ward up? He doesn't have a ward on him, so he's not going to do that. He's going to dive for Alex in the middle.
That's the side that Alex hasn't warded yet. He could be in trouble here. He flashes immediately because he knows if Snoopay would have gotten that off, he would have died.
Meanwhile, at the
That's
top,
a little bit of laziness on Alex's part, not getting that ward on that side in time and having to burn flash. Because he has it in his inventory, he just hasn't placed it yet.
So he's not managed to get it, and Lee Sin was hanging around, and now he's actually going to go towards... No, he's not going to go towards, so he's going to back away. So let's have a look down the bottom. How's this one panning out already? 25 to 33. So at the moment, Kennen is winning out in the CS, which I guess we kind of expected early on. But is it going to be enough to continue? In fact, Civ has actually wisely gone back, and they're going to take the golems away again. So they're going to keep up that farm, keep up that gold farm, and Genja is pushing that lane quite heavily and realizes they have completely backed off here.
And this is just, once again, CLG's attempt to survive in lane, because even though Tarek Sivir is great, and maybe once they're level 5 or 6 they're going to be able to get a bit more spike potential off, immediately Kennen is all about the early lane, and they know they're going to lose it, so they're playing very conservatively. They have the cloth armor, he's willing to give up a couple CS, he's trying to keep up by taking the golems, and once again, COG, Yellow Pete, and Crepo just doing a really good job at surviving in lane, which they seem to be the best at doing that in lane.
Let's see whether they're going to maybe go back and buy or keep the pressure on that turret, which is something they have done a few times. I can see Diamonds sneaking in towards this top bush where the Wicked's really pushed out far enough, and that was far too much of a tell, and he was quickly away from that. Riven's going to be so hard to pin down. Maokai is up the top there though, so Snoopy's going to possibly sneak round. I think he's going to give him time. Yeah, Clairvoyance went down. They know that he's gone away now, and will Darien be able to spot that straight away? Because, oh, Snoopy is going to come straight up there. He's going to surely catch on towards Darien. Had to use his ulti, but I'm not too sure if it's enough. I think we might see first blood here. He will try and flash through, but it's not going to matter because a swift broken wing from Wicked manages to take him down, and that will be a well-earned first blood at the top lane. Darien's been so aggressive early on, really hadn't spotted the moment there, and Gosu Pepper immediately getting that Tarek stun and Boomerang Blade across him down that bottom lane. But a great first gank there.
And really, what happened there is it's this false sense of security that Gangplank had, because just a second ago, he had a human ward in that bush in Lee Sin. But as soon as Lee Sin disappeared, he was still like, well, I had vision of that bush half a second ago. I'm most likely safe. But Wicked and Snoopy realized that this is probably going to be Darien's mindset and said, okay, he thinks he's safe. He's not. Let's gank him immediately before he realizes he's not safe. And that's exactly what they did. It was just really well executed and timed, and good mind games of knowing what's going through Darien's head at that moment.
Okay, so I'm intrigued to see how it's going in the mid here. They're both at 7. CS is pretty even. Froggen has got that blue buff already, and actually he's going to keep pushing that on towards Alex and try and drive home any advantage he gets early on. That's immediately going to pull the attention of Lee Sin, but we do see Wicked actually warding down here, so I think they're setting up for an early dragon. Yes,
they must be doing an early dragon, yeah.
And I think they're going to be ready for it. The pings actually from CLG are expecting to try and catch them out as they go for the red here. Oh, beautiful ulti straight in Diamond's face. Diamond will go down very quickly, and that's going to give advantage CLG. They're going to surely take this dragon without too much hassle from Moscow 5, and that was very well executed by CLG there.
It was Wicked taking his advantage from the quick kill and then just immediately trying to snowball it to the rest of the game. He knows he's not really going to be able to do that much against Gangplank in the lane if he just goes straight back there. Plus there's tons of objectives they want to take. They had the knowledge from Froggen seeing Karthus mid that he had blue and that Karthus did not. So they're going to be going in for this blue steal, no problem.
Top lane, and Froggen actually getting straight on towards Darien there. Darien kind of caught out of position. I think he's got enough to get onto this one. He's had to use his ulti to try and cover his tracks. A flash used, the poison dot surely will get him down. Very nicely done there, and that was a simple case of Darien going too aggressive, trying to pull that ward down early, not expecting Cassiopeia to be back there because they knew they'd gone for Dragon. He thought it was clear and easy, but in the meantime, very well executed again.
Yeah, really just, and I wanted to just finish that point I was making earlier. They knew that Karthus was going to have to go for his blue buff, so that's why they were waiting in the bush where they caught Lee Sin, because they knew Lee Sin and Karthus were going to be coming through that way in order to feed Karthus blue buff.
Bottom lane fight about to kick off here, and immediately that's a lot of ultis already used. Crepo is the target. Karthus ulti is coming out as well. They will get one. Will they get a second though? They're going to try and get on towards Snoopy surely, but I think the escape will be on. Gosu Pepper eating a massive Boomerang Blade over the face there, and they will back away. Look at Diamond and Gosu Pepper very incredibly low. And really, it was very lucky that they did have that ulti to help them out there, because they burned up 4 ultis there and really only just got 1 kill. But they got it.
It's looking really strong for COG early, yeah. And once again, we see Snoopy with the really early oracles, and we'll see if he can hold on to that.
Well, the interesting thing to note as well, that Cassiopeia, after getting that kill, has switched roles. Now Wicked looks like he's going to be going back to mid again, so they're quite happy to switch these out. So how have they actually built towards this? Not really. He's got 50 magic resist on Riven, so has got that Wriggles already completed, and looks like he's going to be happy sitting in mid against Alex.
The only thing that I could take into mind here is if you remember when we were looking at the rune pages, Darien actually had 32 armor on his, and his itemized more armor with his wriggles. So they're thinking, Wicked would have realized this and told them, here's this Gangplank with 109 armor against my damage, but only 40 against yours. So if we swap, maybe we'll actually win this lane against this guy. And that's maybe their thought process here. Meanwhile, Cassio is gonna just burst down Darien. And that's exactly it. He has no magic resist, and CLG, once again, understanding builds and resistances, does the swap, and it pays off with a quick kill.
And sort of questioning whether Moscow 5 can swap it up. CLG are like, we are happy with this lane swap, and it seems to be working very, very well. He's already picked up 2 kills from it. Alex, so he is going to have to put that ward down. Yeah, you can see whether he's going to back around. The ping's going down, and Froggen is not happy with 1 kill. He wants to find another. He's going looking, and he can see Lee Sin there because they've got that ward placement down by their wraiths. And look at that, he's trying to get in position to get around the back. Unfortunately, Lee Sin has backed away, so Froggen will not pick anything up from that. Alex actually is trying to protect him, and well, CLG really have a huge advantage yet again, like we saw. Gosu Pepper has to be very careful there, putting that ward down in River. Now they realise, and yeah, the ping goes down. They saw Snoopy there.
So yeah, once again, just a large early game advantage, and I'm wondering whether M5 is going to pull out some kind of advantage in the next big dragon fight. It's curious because the Maokai pick actually synergizes really well against M5's team fight strategies, in the fact that Karthus is just going to be wanting to dive into these, dive into the team in these large areas and sit there with his Defile, whereas Kennon's also going to be, this large AoEs. But here we have Maokai, 20% damage reduction from his ult, and it'll be interesting to see if M5 actually has enough damage in team fights to touch CLG.
And the question is whether Alex can maybe try and pull some advantage over Wicked, which it doesn't look like it will be in the mid. He's not been able to have that gank potential that Cassiopeia does have. And Darien, how's he reacting to this? Well, not so well, unfortunately. He's suddenly forced, he's completely changed his mindset. He's sitting way back in his lane. He's happily throws it right up by his tower. He doesn't want to go anywhere anymore like he was earlier on.
Yeah, really not. He's been punished a few too many times for his aggression this time, and he's finally, I think, we're seeing a little bit of passive or scared play from Darien for, I think, the first time ever. So we'll see how that plays out, him just kind of passively farming in the lane with Gangplank.
Look how paranoid Moscow 5 have now been made. They just also auto-kick towards the bush there. Oh, missing the kill down the bottom though. Immediately going down there. Yellow Pete will go down as well. And that will actually be a double kill as well. And it was Genja that picked up the kill there. So apologies for missing that one. Looking up towards the top. We knew down well, as soon as it happened, it would be very, very quickly. And will they pile onto that turret? I'm not too sure. As it's happened before, Genja tends to just quite happily farm away. We do have Snoopy going very aggressive, warding, taking away the large wraith there. Diamonds is sneaking in towards the top here. Froggen actually coming across has actually cleared out that ward. So he's cleared out all the wards in the red buff area. Diamonds is just below. They're going to dive on towards him here. Darien is getting dived. He's had to use his ulti, but Lee Sin is going to come in to support them. Will the tower not be enough? He's actually knocked further away. Darien's going to go down. He might be able... Lee Sin goes down. It won't be enough. Froggen is very low. Karthus' ulti had just been used, remember, so he can't use that. Now he's going to dive back on him on tower. Darien doing his best to dive around. Will it be enough? He's trying to go towards Froggen. He desperately needs that kill. The poison dot will be enough to finish him off, though. And would you Adam and Eve it? Froggen gets another kill. Alex is like, where's he gone? He's left you for dust, and he's ran away. Genja returns to mid, but wow. CLG are doing a great job, but that double kill down bottom has not put Moscow 5 out of it yet. They've brought themselves into this one screaming and kicking.
Absolutely, and unfortunately I've disconnected from the chat comment again. Something about the Euro Tourney realm being not far away from America, but anyway, I can still watch on your stream, and I will comment on that. Well, as CLG is actually about to take a dragon, seemingly uncontested.
Yeah, completely uncontested, because obviously they've just all died down the bottom. Moscow 5 immediately coming back and going, yep, we missed it again. But they do have the timer this time, so that is the second dragon, though. 6-4, very, very close game. Double dragon, though, for CLG, and wisely so. And all that time...
Just such quick timing by M5 there, or by CLG there. M5 had actually come back with a purple ward because they were planning on making a dragon play as soon as they returned, and they returned just to see that it's already gone.
Indeed. Darien now has switched up into the mid here. And whether that's just going to stay there, or whether that's because he was down there for Dragon, I think it was more a case of just being there for Dragon. And they need to focus, I think they need to put pressure on Froggen because he's looking strong. 5-1-0, he's got the Rylers already. And you know what? He may, yeah, and Darian wisely realised and said, no, I'm not going straight through that dry bush. I'm going to back away from this one.
Yeah, Cassiopeia surely would have been able to nearly 100-0 him if he caught him with an ult in that brush. But while we have a bit of a lull, I did want to talk about that tower dive top, and it was a fairly well-executed tower dive from CLG, but they were definitely over-aggressive going back in for the Gangplank kill, and even though they got it, they came out substantially behind. At that point, Gangplank had already died 3 times, so he wasn't actually worth that much gold. Maybe, I don't know the exact amount, but I think it's something like 180 or 200 after you've died a couple times. Whereas Froggen was worth close to 400.
Oh, in the mid lane, he's diving on towards Alex. Actually, I'm just going to cut across you. He nearly got him. The Ignite will run out, though, but Wicked has effectively just driven Alex completely out of the lane. Will he stick around with the health pot? Yes, he actually will. That's pretty ballsy because Wicked is at full health. He could easily dive this one onto Alex. He's going to try and bait him in there. Now Diamonds is going to come up, and I don't think they're going to have enough, no, because Maokai is there as well. And I will just say, Snoopy is doing a fantastic job yet again with that early oracles of clearing out, and the whole COG come and protect him. When he's coming into a dangerous area, they will move straight away, protect him out, and I think this middle turret's going to go down. The bottom top turret's already gone, and the middle turret looking like it will follow. There we go.
Yeah. And there's actually 2 people on M5 right now flashing red because while we were watching all that, Cassiopeia took Gangplank dangerously low, and yeah, their solo lanes are just both kind of crushing their matchup. So it's looking good considering their solo lanes are winning their matchup, bottom lane is surviving, and jungle is completely clearing all the wards and giving their keeping the knowledge away from M5. But with that being said, I was saying the exact same things last game, that COG was winning the jungle in 2 lanes, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, but that was over a well-fought dragon fight. As yet, M5 have not even got close to contesting a dragon. The ping goes down on Froggen, they know where he is, and he is a danger. Diamonds actually wants to engage here. He does have Darian with him, and Darian manages to use the raise morale, kicks him in towards Darian, and Froggen's going to have to try and deal with the damage here. Is it going to be enough? The Karthus ulti is going to be blown as well. Darian might well go down in this exchange. He's going to try and desperately escape. Who does get that little heal help from Gusu Pepper, and they needed that kill. That was a desperation move. A lot of ultis blown, but it was worth it because they got it, and that will try to just slow him down a little bit because Froggen was looking in danger of just running away with it, and Alex is... well, he's worried about Wicked in the middle as well. CS-wise, very even, 153, 156, Cassiopeia 135 to 131. So actually, all the lanes, CS-wise, are incredibly close. Although, you know, down the bottom here, Kennen has had that advantage, and he has got the BF sword this time.
Yeah, he really does. And one thing I've noticed about Kennen's builds in the past is he will really kind of hold off. Or he'll build a BF sword at him a lot of time, or an Infinity Edge, which he can do because he's got 25 attack speed from his runes. And yeah, just what is going on up top? We have a Sona battling a Maokai. Rather confusing.
Gosu Pepper's like, hey, this lanes are free. I'm getting all the CS I can right now. He's last hitting like a boss.
Up to 20. Oh, 21. Here we go. Okay.
He's got to take every advantage, but he can't hang around much longer because, yeah, Cassiopeia is coming up, and he's going to back away from... oh, don't teleport there. He could get caught out. Darian also walking straight towards Froggen there. Froggen will see him teleport. Won't go for him, though. Didn't go for the bait. Alex, though, in the mid, you know... how do you counter? I mean, Alex has nearly got up to Rabadon's death cap. We've got a Rylers and building up armor. Oh, they're collapsing in around Gangplank at the top here. Now he's going to back away. Oh, but he's actually diving towards Alex. He's going through the wall of pain.
Number 1 CS in this game right now, which is keeping up well with his farm. And yep, big dive.
Yeah, they've backed straight out of it. It's all good. But they are... yeah, and the ping actually, they're saying, shall we go around the back of Darian? And Darian's already backed off. They will try and steal the red, and there's not really enough Moscow 5 around because Diamonds is down the bottom here, stood on top of a ward.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just COG really... trying to push home their advantage that they seemingly weren't able to push home last game. So you're seeing lots of invades and just trying to catch people a little bit off guard, which I guess they're saying they didn't do enough of last game because they were unable to capitalize on their advantage last game. It's interesting to see the change in their playstyle from being ahead this game compared to last game. This game, they're being much more aggressive with their lead.
And they need to be careful that they don't go too aggressive, because Moscow 5 have kind of, I think they've realized that, okay, we were a bit over-aggressive, we kind of messed up a little bit. Oh, and actually, Diamond's diving on towards Snoopy there. Wicked has cut across. Alex is with him, though, and now they're all collapsing around Dragon because it is due, and they've realized it. And Genja coming up, needs to regroup with Moscow 5. You can see that actually Cassiopeia is definitely going to close in a lot earlier, so it's all about who can land the poke early on, because Gangplank is not here. He does have his ulti up though, so he can make an effect even though he's not close enough, but he's going to come around the back of them, and the ping's just gone off. They know that they're a 4v5 at the moment, so CLG trying to push that advantage. Snoopy clearing out the wards. Crepo actually drew some of the aggro there, so
a lot of damage going down on Carthage just from the little bit of poke from Cassio. So once again, I feel like I'm going to say here CLG is probably going to win this engage unless Alex can get in the center of them somehow without dying. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, and there goes the Karthus ulti, so they're going to try and dive in there. That's going to put them a little bit lower, but I don't think it's going to be enough. They could have done with maybe a Gangplank ulti across the lot. They're actually going to try and draw it out. They are nicely grouped up now, and Alex is going to dive in. Crescendo goes across Snoopy, taken down very low, but that kick's actually knocked him out of the Kennen ulti, and immediately the ulti from Cassiopeia did so much damage. Quick burst, but he didn't pick up a kill, and CLG having to use the Sivir ulti to back away from this one. Gosu Pepper's actually been caught a little bit out of position. Alex, I've no idea how he's survived on so little health. Genja is now low. Suddenly the poison damage from Froggen is time to burn away on Moscow 5, having to use the raised morale to desperately escape this one. Crepo trying to get a stun on anyone. Yellow Pete on nothing. Froggen on nothing. Crepo on nothing. Moscow 5 on nothing. They are all so low in this. Snoopy the only one. The stun does land. It's not enough though. And again, I don't think either of these could actually take Dragon right now because they're all so very low, and wisely I think everybody is going to back away from this fight. That was insane.
It is an incredible fight right now. The one thing though is that the healing of M5 is dead, whereas the healing of CLG is still alive. So if they were somehow able to extend this crazy fight where one Q would kill anyone even longer, they would be able to take Dragon. But no, everyone is just going to say that was a little too close for comfort, and they're all going back to base, and I'm imagining they will reconvene at Dragon shortly.
Yeah, indeed, they will reconvene. I think that's where they're all going to return straight to. And you can see Moscow 5 and CLG collapsing straight back towards it. Riven in there early, and wisely not pulling it out just yet. The pings go down. Moscow 5 are aware. They have got a ward actually. It's in the back of the pit, which now Snoopy will see. Now Snoopy's gone for it. Yeah, that was the only ward that Moscow 5 still had in there. So now CLG's wards are all over the place. Still no oracles for Moscow 5 here either. They are going to dive in. It's going to be a very low fight because no ulti is really available. Maokai's ulti is back up. Remember, Alex used his early on. He doesn't want it. He's going to go down very quickly. Will he have his ulti to pop out? It will do, but I don't think it's going to be enough. CLG are wisely going to back away, let it run out, top themselves back off, and now they realize they're in a 4-on-5 position with Alex removed from the fight. But Moscow 5 are still pretty high. They need Cassiopeia to try to pick off. You can see Genja, he desperately wants to land the stun on either Yellow Pete or Crepo in amongst there, but they are being poked from range. Is it going to be enough? They're going to...
Kennen's ulti is back up now. I don't know if CLG realized it, as well as Sona.
There they go. The Gangplank ulti's gone down. Is Genja going to follow in on it? No, he's not. They're going to keep it going. Now they're going to try and dive in on towards the Dragon. Oh, Darian's been dived on. They've rightly peeled off on this one. Darian is the focus of all the attention of CLG, and they are going to turn that one into a kill and a Dragon kill. Very nicely executed.
Oh wow, and the Cassio ult just completely stopped M5's aggression. It seemed like Kennen wanted to go in off that Sona ulti, but as soon as the Sona ulti landed, both Kennen and Sona got petrified by Cassio's ulti, and they just, you know, obviously couldn't do anything to support. So another advantage gained by CLG. I feel like Alex never quite got in the right position on Karthus, even in the first Dragon fight before they reconvened. His flash didn't really put him where he wanted to. He never really hit that many people with the file, and he needs to position better if they want to win the next fight.
And it just shows how many people are interested in this fight, despite the fact it's early morning weekday in America. There is 75,000 nearly of you tuned in and watching what is essentially one of the best games we've seen in a long time in League of Legends. No doubt about that. The Kiev finals were fantastic. The semi-finals in this were fantastic. But this is definitely a very close game, and neither want to give anything away. But CLG currently, just like before, have looked very strong in the lane phase. Can they turn that potential? This time they have picked up 3 dragon fights. That's where it turned around for Moscow 5 in the last game. They picked up a very good dragon fight. And Darien actually going very aggressive on Wicked here. Both junglers actually backing away, but the big difference is Froggen. He's 7-2-1. How do you turn that around? I mean, Karthus is 1-1-3. He has got the CS, but he's just falling slowly and steadily further and further behind Froggen, who's just picking up kill after kill.
Yeah, and Froggen's about to finish his death cap, which will be even scarier. And that's the big problem right now for Moscow 5 in fights, is the fact that Cassio is so good at counter-engaging and stopping people from really running at her just because her Petrify is so great and her poke is so strong that...
Oh, Genja's been dived on here. He actually had to use his ulti to get out of it, but it's not going to be enough. And he spotted the problem earlier on. He knew the tower was going to go down, but they just completely closed in on. And Moscow 5 actually trying to pull out the Baron here. I'm not sure this is the right idea. They did this before, and they're going to lose out on an inner turret. And CLG are like, yeah, okay, you can have that Baron. We are going to take your towers, and possibly an inhibitor already. You can see they're just going full tilt on it. They know that they're on Baron. They have a ward. It's flat there staring at them. That's going to be the Baron going down, and now they're diving on him. Gangplank ulti used. Is it going to be enough? The Karthus ulti is going to come out, and Crepo wisely popping his ulti and just about healing enough there. They're going to have to walk away, but they will take the inhibitor, so it is a straight exchange. Baron for inhibitor. I'm not too sure. I think I'd rather stick with that inhibitor in my base.
It seems like it, and that was just, you know, it was just a reactionary play because all 4 people on M5 were near the Baron when Genja died, and they were trying to make the best of that situation. They're saying, okay, well, they just dove with 4 people top. Let's try to force them down bottom here with Baron to maybe save our towers. But COG said, you know what? They're doing Baron. We can push to the inhibitor. And it was just a really quick judgment call saying they can't kill Baron and get back fast enough before we can get to the inhibitor. And that's just something that comes with experience and playing a lot of games together. And, you know, CLG definitely made the right call. I think if M5 would have known that CLG was going to react that way and be able to take their inhibitor, they probably would have backed after the Genja death.
Genja's tried desperately to take away this last raid. There we go. Finally got it. I don't think he wanted to take all of them, but he's had it all anyway. And now Moscow 5 with that Baron buff are going to try and push it on and see if they can actually get anything from it. Turn the game in their advantage. They don't have enough to take this tower. They don't have siege minions or anything really. And of course CLG can take them turrets to take the minion waves down very, very quickly. Sapling going towards Diamond there.
And it's too bad for M5 here because they realize that since they've lost their inhibitor, that if they weren't able to push down that mid tower almost immediately before the super creeps reach their base, that they're not really going to be able to do anything with this Baron because they constantly have to have someone in that lane that has no inhibitor just to get rid of some of the super creeps, because unlike the mid inhibitor when it falls, if one of the side inhibitor falls, those super creeps can actually push down the base tower, since many times only one tower will egg onto the creeps to clear them.
Yeah, and it's going to keep a 4v5 advantage in mid as well, but the flip side is Genja's going to get farmed. If they don't drive home this advantage of taking that inhibitor down, Genja's just going to stick there and get more and more farmed, which in itself is a bonus, but they just need to hold off, I think, now. And like you say, that Baron is effectively wasted.
Yeah, I mean, the Baron, at the same time, it is helping them hold off, because you're not going to dive on top of a team who has Baron unless you feel like you have a giant advantage. Even 4v5, I feel like it would be a rather foolish dive of CLG to push on top. So what the Baron has allowed them to do is, even though they can't push an advantage, they're still getting some farm. Again, just getting a ton of creeps bottom, and they're not losing anymore. But with that being said, I think people are going to basically be stuck in the positions they're in now until that Baron's off and the inhibitor is respawned. So we're going to have a bit of stagnant play here for the next few minutes, I'm thinking.
Yeah, so let's have a look around what we've actually got item-wise. We've got double Infinity Edge on both Sivir, not obviously double Infinity Edge, that would be insanity, on Genja and Sivir. Which is kind of expected. They both actually have gone different builds, because we've got the Wriggles double Dorans on Sivir, who went to Infedge, and said we haven't got the Wriggles this time on Genja because he didn't really need it. He's gone for that Infedge, and he's got a Zeal, so he's a bit closer to that Phantom Dancer than possibly Sivir. I'm just looking at the gold. Yeah, there's pretty even between the two. It's about 400 difference, which is they're pretty even on stats. It's just purely the kills and death ratio is identical as well. CS Moscow 5 I'm just shaping up for a dragon here, and there it is. Perfect timing. I think they're going to take this one away quick.
And they have the lane pushed up a bit. If CLG can manage to stall this fight for a little bit, they'll be fine. But I think M5 is going to take this right away, and yep, they get it.
Very, very quick there. So they were perfectly timed and ready, and obviously with the Baron that was going to go away, and they immediately have to return straight to lane. So actually that is their first Dragon of the game as well. And with the Dragon and a Baron, that's actually pulled them equal in resource gold. Really the big difference now is the tower and the kills, which is a pretty huge difference. 5-1, they realise the Wicked's on red buff. Will he manage to get it in time? No, they won't, and Wicked manages to steal away another buff.
Then just kind of dance away on Riven. Well done.
As you do. And let's see.
Yeah, so, looking at team items...
Oh, they're going to dive. They're going to dive on towards Gosu Pepper. They've targeted him because there was a ward in that bush. Gosu Pepper with that Oracles. They tried to get on him. And they are still pushing around this top, looking for Maokai. Maokai's a way away. And in fact, they actually put the pink ward down to clear out that ward in bush. Meanwhile, CLG are actually all stacking up towards his top turret. Moscow 5 are a little bit south of the border at the moment. So CLG, I think, are going to close in here. Going to take this inner turret pretty much without any defense at all. Moscow 5 a little bit out of position there. Gosu Pepper realizing he's not got the chance to close in and around there, and they're going to have to back off again. So CLG just slowly closing the objectives down. 6-1 in towers now.
They're just kind of bottling M5 up in their base. M5 still feels that they're weaker in fights because, you know, they pretty much are, and until that inhibitor's back up, COD is going to be able to keep M5 completely bottled in their base, and yeah, they're just doing a good job of realizing when M5 can't make it to a tower and pouncing quickly and taking it out.
COD trying to bait them in, but the blue buff has already been cleared, because that's what they were doing when they gave up the tower, and they pinged towards the inhib because the inhibitor has respawned, and you can see Moscow 5 desperately trying to defend it. So we're going to have an open fight here. No tower. CLG are quite open to dive in, and that's what they're going to do. They flashed in towards Darien now. Wicked trying to get in, had to flash out themselves. Diamonds there using it straight up, going straight across. Are they going to back out? Yellow Pete's actually targeted. They will manage to get the inhibitor down with the Gangplank ulti. Will it be enough? Frogger managing to catch the ulti on towards Alex there, but Frogger's been picked off, separated, and that will go down very quickly. Crescendo getting the whole CLG team. This is what they need the fight to turn around. The Karthus ulti is not enough though. They can't seem to take them down low enough. Genji managing to land the stun just about in time. Yellow Pete is the target. Had to flash away. Meanwhile, it is separated Wicked. They are doing a great job of separating the fights out here. Moscow 5 very low. Darian's going to continue on towards Crepo. Yellow Pete's not really in a position to stand and fight, and they're going to back out of that one. So, well, that was a 2-for-1 exchange. Lots of ultis burned out, and they got the inhibitor in amongst it. But, you know, I think Moscow 5 are going to take a little something from that. They got a couple of kills.
They definitely did get a couple of kills, and it just kind of went to show how close these team fights really are. Unfortunately for M5, they did lose that inhibitor, and that's just going to keep them bottled in their base for much longer than they really want to. CLG realized that Karthus was actually top during that fight, and that's what allowed them to engage and go into the inhibitor. It took Alex so long to get all the way across the inside of his base before he could assist in that fight. And yeah, Baron's actually going to be coming up fairly soon, and it's going to be trouble here for M5. Are they going to go for a Baron immediately?
They are, and that's going to catch them in trouble.
They haven't even shopped. If COG even, like, blinks at them, they're going to die at this Baron fight.
And they realise that Snoopy's actually trying to get in there. They've taken the Baron though. Snoopy's been caught out. That was a pretty quick Baron from Moscow 5 there. And considering that CLG, I think they weren't quite ready for that. They were like, hang on a minute, they are actually doing Baron again. Can you get over here very quickly? And that, you know what, has actually pulled the gold very, very close in favour. Diamonds is going to get dived here. And, well, I think an ulti was used from Frog in there. Let's have a quick look across. No, it wasn't. I am talking out of my backside. It was just the E. And, well, very, very tight fight here. Let's have a look at the gold across the board. Immediately, while we have this little back off, it's 11-9 in kills, 6-1 in towers. But gold is creeping in their favour. The gold between the two APs is very close. Between the two ADs is pretty much even. And the two top lanes is very close as well. This is actually, well, there's a big advantage for Wicked actually. He's got about 1k advantage. But item-wise, they are even definitely all even.
Gold is, yeah, 1200. And just let that be a lesson to everyone in solo queue or any game in general. If the other team has a Karthus with a death cap, Baron dies really, really fast. And it died so fast that I think it even took CLG a little off guard. Snoopy realized they're going for Baron and was like, oh, whatever, we'll get there in time. I'm going to kill this ward in the bush here and then go in. And meanwhile, Baron's dead, like immediately. And that is just super aggressive play by M5, aggressively trying to come back and succeeding. So we'll see how this plays out with the Baron now.
And of course, this is what I mentioned about that that lane being farmed up. They've got super minions coming up it. Well, now Gangplank's just happily farming away in amongst all that and just building up his damage now, because you see he's got a BF sword on him to clog up. He's got a Kindle gem, so I would expect the Shirelias to come out shortly. But wow, this game is so close and teetering on the edge. 35 minutes gone. This is the third match in a best of 3 in what has already been 2 very close matches, with a pretty incredible comeback in the last one. And Moscow 5 look like they are certainly turning it back on its head here. 20-minute games, fast matches, meta's changed? I think not.
Yeah, another game, and this one's looking to stretch for quite a while, because M5 still has that down inhibitor. They're really not going to be doing anything super aggressive until that inhibitor's respawned, and they've cleared all the remaining super creeps coming out of the CLG base. So once again, this Baron is really just a counter to them losing an inhibitor, and it's slowly pulling them back in the game, just extending it over and over. And we've said in the past, you know, Karthus late game, even though we actually haven't gotten to see a Karthus late game, is a monster. So I want to see how well this Karthus does versus, you know, the Sivir versus Kennen matchup, trying to balance it out.
And an Infinity Edge has just been built on Gangplank as well. So now he is going to be tanky and doing a lot of damage in amongst it all. Big crits. They're going to take this dragon away, and that will pull it. Look at that. 100 gold between the two teams, 37 minutes into the game. So how would you call it right now? You've got you've got Sivir, who can pump things out. You've got Cassiopeia, who can burst out that damage and sustain during fights. You've got Riven, who can hang on in there for so long. It's really got to be about catching someone out, because you've got Karthus in amongst there, who is now, I think he's around about 600 AP, 534 AP, so he's very high. Cassiopeia is, if I can catch him, 423 AP, so you've got so much between these two, and now you've got a Gangplank and a Genja on Kennen, with both got Infinity Edges. There's so much damage between these two teams.
Absolutely.
And a lot of stun potential.
And the one thing I will say is M5 was actually down substantially, and now they've pulled it back. So based on that alone, the fact that they've been able to gain more gold than CLG over the past 10 or 15 minutes of this game, I have to give them the slight edge, because they were able to be behind and pull back to now where they seem to be almost in the lead. Even though they're still on their heels, based on all of CLG's pressure, they may actually be ahead in this game, and it'll be really telling when the next team fight plays out.
Well, you need to look at the map and realize that CLG definitely have great ward control compared to Moscow 5. They're definitely taking everything out. Ooh, Diamonds might get caught out here. Ooh, just popping the ward down in Crepo's face. Wasn't sure if they had enough to dive straight on him. And they are going to try and close in on towards Darien. They realize the inhibitor has respawned.
And this whole game could end off a single pick. So if Maokai catches anyone out of position, it could be over right there.
Well, the thing is, I'm not sure if Moscow 5 would quite have enough to just pile up and take all of the base, because they have all of the outer turrets to get through, apart from that top lane, which is not enough. But this inhibitor is definitely the target for CLG. They're going to push in again. It didn't work out so great last time. Will they manage to focus in into one? Remember, look for that Gangplank ulti. That will be the trigger. That will be the fight start. There goes the Wall of Pain, and yeah, they wisely back out of that one. They're not feeling they've got quite the picks here, and you can see Wicked is actually getting quite a bit of damage on him this time. He's not able to walk in and really face check onto all of them, and that lay waste is coming out ever so further, and well, Moscow 5 have driven them out of their base.
Yeah, I mean, the Karthus wall didn't quite land on anyone of CLG. I feel like if those Karthus walls were catching multiple people, especially someone squishy, you know, who's not Wicked, M5 would have immediately engaged.
Well, the Wall of Pain is caught Frog in this time, and he's going to put a couple of layways, and CLG going to back away from this one. Moscow 5, I think, well, are they going to go for it? Remember that awesome turnaround that CLG did with Cassiopeia against Mistral Gaming, and maybe that was just popping through their heads there, and they thought, let's not go for this one just yet.
Yeah, definitely. It's extremely hard to chase after a team with Cassiopeia especially. And now that the inhibitor's back, now that the super creeps have stopped spawning, now that CLG has stopped trying to push that inhibitor down, we're going to probably see the next fight center around Baron, because that's coming up really shortly. Everyone, if they're smart on both sides, is probably going to be buying elixirs, because they need to be really, really strong for this next fight. Because, I mean, if M5 loses this fight, the game is over for them. And if CLG loses this fight, then they're extremely far behind. And like you said, M5 probably won't be able to push for a win, if they do win a fight, but it'll definitely give them a huge advantage.
Yeah, Moscow 5 are going to try and close their advantage. Now we can see the Phantom Dancer both built, but we got Guardian Angel on Genja and a Guardian Angel on Cassiopeia as well. So they're starting to both build up those very end-game items and where that any big team fight may need them, especially, and basically just takes them away from being the insta-target, but they still may be that way. And you're going to assume that Alex is going to be the instant target currently for Moscow 5, and Yellow Pete probably on CLG, but it's a case of whether they can catch them out. It's all about, as Moscow 5 put it, see hero, kill hero.
And as soon as Alex realizes that he's about to die, expect him to flash into a team rather than out, just because that's how you play Karthus at the end of the game. You just put yourself as close to everyone as you can and just dish out the maximum amount of damage.
Bonsai.
Yeah, kamikaze Karthus.
I think Moscow 5 really wicked thought about trying to dive onto that one. Wall of Pain actually landing across them, and a couple of layways actually just clearing out those minions. Oh, here we go. Shirelius Reveille's been popped here by CLG. They want to close in on it. Flashes were used. Tariq actually managed to land the stun on towards Alex there, but he got out of it in time. And the Sivir ulti also burned up there. So let's see if Moscow 5 turn on their heads here. They realise that a couple of items were used up there. Baron buff has respawned, so we might see a pushed force fight from Moscow 5 here. They've got to be careful catching the poke in amongst this bush. Wow, just look at that. A single layway is doing damage to Snoopy there. And he's trying to drive himself in amongst them. Snoopy will back away, and the blue buff will be taken again. So Alex now, and CLG, well, they're going to try and force this Baron buff, which is risky business. They do not have the Sivir ulti here. I will come back to you in a sec, because I got a feeling this is about to kick off. Here we go. Gangplank ulti goes down. Moscow 5 not quite in the position to jump on CLG there and forcing them away from that one. So that's, again, another ulti burned out there, but still, Moscow 5, I feel, in the stronger position until that Sivir ulti comes back up. It is a pretty quick timer, though. They're going to drive forward and try to bully him off this tower, but you can see just how quick CLG can wipe out them waves.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just so much back and forth. I'd say that even going back, we have a bit of a lull. When the Tariq flashed to stun Karthus and Karthus had to flash away, that's a bonus, that's a win for CLG, because the Karthus flash is much, much more important than the Tariq flash at this point. And then, just baiting back and forth. Teams aren't using all of their ultimates. They're not fully engaging. They're just kind of partially engaging. And here we might have another fight.
Gangplank's away from it, actually. They've realised it. They've got a 4v5. Oh, and Alex has been caught out a little bit there. Wall of Pain just about saving him. But they realise Gangplank ulti has been used, and he's away from the fight. Yellow Pete popping the ulti again on Sivir. Will they push forward? They wanted to catch out there, and they almost caught Alex, and wisely backed away from it, but they're going to... No, they're just not sure. It's this posturing up that comes out. This time, actually, yeah, the ping's gone down on Dragon. They realise Darien is actually soloing that one away. Wall of Pain. Meanwhile, Alex is just putting himself out there, saying, come on, take me. And Lee Sin, every time, is popping on him, shielding him up. And that will be another Dragon going away to Moscow 5 here. And that gold advantage is continuing to turn in Moscow 5's favour. Looking across here, anyone stacked up with gold? Well, we got 1,600 gold stacked across a number of Moscow 5 players, actually. They kind of all want to buy, but neither can actually shop right now, because it will just give up too many advantages to the opposition.
Yeah, and what we've been seeing here in the past couple minutes is the advantages of having a character with teleport late game.
Here we go.
Darien has been able to push bottom and take Dragon and all these things only because he has teleport, and CLG has no one with teleport.
Yeah, the Moscow 5 realising now. Sivir ulti is down. It will be up in a second, though. Not very long here. They're going to go straight and engage. That's going to be a crescendo going across. Snoopy actually seems to be the target. Darien will get popped pretty low and taken down by Froggen in amongst that. Also, don't forget, Gangplank went down, and Moscow 5 taken very low here. Froggen picking up a kill. The ulti from Karthus is going to come out, but it's not enough. They're all topped off. Genja, one little shot from Yellow Pete. Tries to boomerang blade through, but it doesn't matter. That is going to be a potential Baron. No, they're not. They're ignoring Baron. They're going to push straight up mid and rip apart those towers, because that was a 4-for-0 engage for CLG and potentially a game winner.
50-second death timers. This is the right play by CLG. They are probably going to be able to end here. It'll be, if they don't, then they're at least going to take multiple inhibitors and maybe even some base towers. Great fight for CLG. Like I said, Alex's positioning never quite got into CLG like he wanted to. There was just too much damage pushing him back. And yeah, CLG is flying through the base here. I actually think the spectator mode has sped up a little bit because the game is probably over.
It is over, and that is CLG piling through. GG, well played. CLG will take the Kings of Europe. And my God, it was a hard-fought game. Moscow 5 pushed them all the way, but CLG in the end won out early on in the lanes and tried to sustain it. Moscow 5 nearly got back in there, but not quite enough. And wow, what a game, Jat, and what a tournament really overall. It's been some fantastic matches throughout, and really just try and look across that scores at the end there. Let's go full screen so we can see what happened. And really the builds, it's just everybody hitting end game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually just waiting for your stream to get me through to that screen because I've been watching off your stream for about the past 30 minutes. And okay, here we go. One interesting thing to keep in mind here is Frozen Heart is such an amazing late game item, but M5 had no character who could actually build Frozen Heart, which did give characters like Sivir and the Riven, who do a lot of auto attack damage, a slight advantage since the Kennen, the Gangplank, and the Lee Sin were all slowed down by that Frozen Heart, but M5 just had no one who could build it. And aside from that, just let me see anywhere. The GA on Cassiopeia ended up paying off because without those extra resistances, he would have taken a lot of extra damage from the Karth Assault and ended up dying. A little surprising though, not seeing a Will of the Ancients on the Cassiopeia. So Froggen going to show once again that you can do some slightly different builds that everyone else does and still be extremely effective. Just the Infinity Edge on Gangplank confused me a little bit because he didn't have any kind of attack speed to combo that with, and he really didn't seem to be a huge presence in any of the team fights despite having 300 CS. I'd say his items maybe could have used a little improvement, but other than that, like, the game was so close and so well played. 45 minutes, which is definitely one of the longer games than even any of the other ones we saw in this tournament. So congratulations to CLG. That's really all I have left to say.
Yeah, indeed. Very, very good game, and thank you very much for basically the players for basically producing an awesome, awesome tournament. It was fantastic. We've had so many good games. You'll be able to catch the VODs. They will be on my YouTube channel. That is for D-Man. Follow me on Twitter as well, QVDman. And Jat, I've got to thank you so much for joining me pretty much throughout this entire event. In fact, it has been throughout this entire event. From getting up at 6 AM on Saturday and again early morning today, it has been a pleasure to commentate with you, and I think the fans agree. And just topping out, I think, just under 80,000 for a tournament that I don't even think was embedded. It shows how big the League of Legends community, esports community is. So a great shout out to all you guys. Thank you very much for viewing. And I think that's just about all we can say. And as Yellow Pete says, great tournament, great shoutcasting, great games. Thank you very much, everyone, for making it possible. So yeah, CLG and Moscow 5, indeed, thanking you both for watching. So I guess you can tune in for whenever our next tournament is. I guess we're going to come up with something. There will be many tournaments out there. Don't forget the grand finals will be coming up in around about 4 weeks' time. You'll also be able to catch myself and Joe Miller bringing you the Go for LOL on the Sunday, I believe. We're going to be doing the weekly tournament. So we're going to see how that one turns out. It's going to be the first time for us. And, of course, you've got the monthly Go for LOLs coming up. But I should really thank Kings of Europe, Chips and Noi, for hosting what has been a spectacular event. So please feel free to leave your comments, etc. on whatever forums. Don't worry, I'll find them. Jat will find them. We see everything, don't worry. Anything you post, we see it, even the cheeseburger comments. So this is D-Man and Jat bringing you Chips and Noise, Kings of Europe. We will be back whenever the next time is. Thanks for listening, guys.